Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you to our workshop on the Headland Avenue Beach Access Project. I want to remind you that this is a workshop, which means we will not be voting on anything this afternoon. This is just more of a fact-finding, gathering information to where we listen to our staff, and of course we listen to each of you as well. At this time, I'd like to remind you, please, to turn off your cell phones so that they do not detract your neighbor and also, us up here as well. As I say, and if you'd also please keep your whispering to a minimum out in the audience because the microphone picks it up. So at this time, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Mr. Jay Tusa, who is the director of our TDC.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Good afternoon. Just real quick before we kick this workshop off, Brian's going to come up and just kind of work you through a little presentation, and then we'll obviously open it up for comments from our audience this afternoon. Just really quickly, I just want to kind of go through some things that the TDC is kind of embarking on right now. We are looking for property for parking. Obviously there's congestion along 30A. And so those are some of the things that we're doing is looking for parking, looking for beach access. We're also doing a internal strategic plan for the TDC. So we have lots of things going on internally at the TDC. So I think with this workshop, I've been getting some emails and some calls, just both pro and con in support or opposition for this beach access point. And I think, as we listen to the comments today, from our residents, that we might want to just take stock in what we have available to us and what we may have coming available to us and through these properties that we have appraisals going out on right now, and maybe kind of look holistically at what we have product-wise for us to kind of move forward on. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there a little bit, that I think we need to kind of look big picture and really have a plan on this is what we have, and maybe this is a viable option for us. This is what's out there. These are some options for us, and just kind of look at everything collectively. So just kind of wanted to put that out there a little bit before we kick this meeting off. Obviously, you're not going to vote on this evening since it's a workshop, but just moving forward over the next few weeks, I think the TDC kind of needs to look at things and where we are and where we want to go as a community. So anyway, thank you. I'll turn it over to Brian.
All right, and Brian, as you come forward, I do want to remind everyone this is a workshop. We will be concluding about 5 till 4 because our regular meeting starts at 4 o'clock. So just to let you know that so that we can move along, but we want to give everybody time to express their opinions. But we do have an hour for this workshop.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, Commissioners, County staff. I'm Brian Kellenberger, Director of Beach Operations. Appreciate your time this afternoon and appreciate the opportunity to speak with you about the Headland Avenue Beach Access Project. Introductions have already been made. Workshop formats, going to be a presentation followed by public comment. Workshop rules, we've all heard. If we can hold any comments until the public comments, we'd appreciate. So on with the presentation. Sea Highland subdivision is just east of Highway 395 on Highway 38. It's got 60 lots. It was platted originally in 1948. It has 60 lots, 12 blocks. It is north and south of County Road 30A, and it's in between Headland Avenue and Dothan Avenue. It has 3 east-west roads: Birmingham Street north of 30A, County Road 30A, Montgomery Street south of 30A. 4 north-south roads: Headland Avenue, Greenwood, Andalusia, and Dothan Avenue. And it borders approximately 1,400 linear feet of public beach. That beach was dedicated with the plat back in 1948. The next picture is a overview of the subdivision outlined in red. And then the next page is the original plat from 1948. The next page shows a small corner, the north or southwest corner, which shows Headland Avenue right away, and then of course the end of the west end of Montgomery Street. The area we're looking at is just to the west of Lot 5 in Block J. So that's the far left corner right there. Sea Highlands Beach Access Project history. Before 1986, the beach access boardwalks in this neighborhood were maintained by the Sea Highland residents. Post 1986, they were replaced, repaired, and maintained by the TDC. Originally, there was a boardwalk located at Andalusia Avenue and at Greenwood Avenue, and then Dothan Avenue was constructed around 1996, rebuilt recently in 2014. And then Headland Avenue was, its boardwalk was actually part of the Seagrove Villas Motel, and it was destroyed in 2005, was not built back. The project history, most recently, in July of 2014, TDC was tasked with identifying property owned by the county that could be improved into neighborhood beach accesses. December 2014, it was approved by the Tourist Development Council to be brought forward to the BCC with a recommendation of approval to be improved. In February of 2015, it was on the agenda to request public workshops. It was deleted during the omissions and deletions section of that agenda, in part due to the HSDR project we had going on. It was tabled, and then it was brought back before you in April 2016, at which time you voted against it. June 2016, we asked for a workshop to be scheduled, and then here we are at our July 2016 workshop. This next picture is what we call a top shot of the Dothan Avenue neighborhood beach access. This is to give you an idea of what the Helen Avenue would look like. This boardwalk at Dothan is an on-grade boardwalk down to the top of the dune, where then there's a dune walkover down to the beach level. So it has basic amenities of a rinse shower, bike racks, garbage collection stations, and our wayfaring signage. This is the bottom shot of it here. Typical tiered steps down to the beach level. This is Andalusia Avenue, top side, same format, on-grade boardwalk, dune walkover with handrails, bike racks, signage. We put in a little bit of landscaping and hardscaping to prohibit parking in the bushes. This is the bottom side of Andalusia, once again, tiered format of steps coming down to the beach. This is Greenwood Avenue. The house to the west of it's still under construction, so it's a little cluttered right there, but gives you an idea of its top side. And this last picture here is the top side of Headland Avenue as it looks today. The County Public Works did a small stormwater swell there to correct some stormwater drainage issues we had. And then the two adjacent landowners did some landscaping there after a small dune restoration from April 2015. Cost estimate. The cost components are design, permitting, and construction. In design, we have civil and architectural costs. Permitting is federal and state environmental, county development order, and county building permit. And then the construction costs, which are all the hard costs associated with it. Design components going to be our standard 6-foot wide boardwalk and dune walkover. It'll have an exfiltration stormwater drainage system underneath the upland portion of the boardwalk. Small dune enhancement and landscaping buffer. And then typical TDC signage and accessories. That's our wayfaring signage that gives rules and adequate guidelines for the beach, garbage collection stations, bike racks, a rinse shower, and then we have a safety flagpole is there as well. This page is my standard spreadsheet for figuring up the approximate cost. Keep in mind this is a conceptual estimate. But it includes design and permitting and then the different components we talked about in the previous page. So with that, that includes my brief presentation. Are there any questions or comments by the board?
All right, we'll start. Your name is Commissioner Jones. Do you have any questions?
No, I'll wait till the end.
Okay. Commissioner Chapman? Commissioner Enfield? Okay, so everybody will wait. Okay. I will take public comment at this time. Unfortunately, I didn't, we did do a sign-in sheet. Thank you. And I will begin by apologizing for butchering everybody's name, okay? So if you'll just bear with me, and we'll do the best we can. I have, the first name is Leonard I Sachs. Isis, thank you, sir. And when you approach the podium, if you would please, state your name for the record and spell your last name so our clerk can get it correctly.
I have some handouts for the...
Very good. If you'll hand them to the clerk, she will pass them out.
My name? Leonard I Sachs, I-S-A-C-K-S. I'm opposed to the beach access. I wanted to bring up some reasons why. I want to start with the fact-finding that we've done here today. Already, we've talked about the headland access being part of the motel. It was never at headland. That's a motel private access. So the history of this access is already being misstated, I believe. There was no intent for the original developers in 1949. If you look at your attachments there's an aerial shot that shows that the street does not extend to the crest of the bluff. That's headland, like the other two east of that. Also, there's a 20-foot wide, unlike Andalusia and Greenwood, which are 40 feet. Second reason not to have this is it's non-essential. There's already 5 public accesses within 100 feet of each other, probably the most frequent grouping in all of Welton County. No residential need within the neighborhood. Won't serve the county at large, only Sea Highland neighborhood or possibly others trespassing on non-public breezeways from subdivisions to the north. Cost. Clearly, the original budgets that were brought up a few months ago were off, and these keep increasing. I'm curious to see what this really will cost when we start adding in the conflicts with power, water, gas, sewer lift stations, drainage, etc. Not sure why we would spend all that money in this spot. No parking. It's interesting that, and I appreciate the TDC looking for places to park. You're not going to find it at this corner. There's absolutely no safe parking. There's a blind corner at both these streets. It's just not a safe area. Narrow streets for foot and bicycle traffic only, obviously, and you're trying to put a breezeway, a walk over there that's going to absolutely be difficult for people to use. Number 6 would be a clouded title. Breezeways were platted for air and light, not public access to the beach. Adjacent homeowners may have an argument for title as they've alone have always maintained the erosion of the foliage, the secondary beach dune, especially after numerous drainage and natural disasters. Absent any offer from assistance from Walton County, nor acceptance of any responsibility for the catastrophic damage to these homes. There's a letter attached on the second page. The attorney that wrote it is here. He can speak to that issue later further with the clouded title. Drainage crisis talked about later, and also I just want to say that this has absolutely nothing to do with customary use. It's a public beach.
Thank you, sir. And next, I believe we have Heidi. Isis? Heidi? Hi. Okay.
Yes, I have received a letter to read for Heidi Eller. She's in California.
All right.
And my name is Grace Morris.
M-A-R-S-E.
S-E, that's correct. The Headland Avenue and Montgomery Street have become the subject of controversy in our community due to voting no for a neighborhood beach access. I am pleased with the county commissioners who voted in favor of holding a workshop to listen to public comments over this issue. As a full-time permanent resident on Montgomery Street, I am in full support for a neighborhood beach access to be put in place at Headland Avenue. Why, you ask? First, the design of the Sea Highland neighborhood lends itself to easy beach accesses for all residents by having the streets and avenues at the end of the dune line. I'm sure if we could ask the original architects of this community, they would have been inspired by beach towns drawing you down to the beach by using roads and pathways. Logically, it makes sense to finally complete the neighborhood plan with beach accesses at the end of every road. Especially since the roads and the beach in the Sea Highland neighborhood were dedicated to the public of Walton County by the original developers. Can you imagine the problems caused in Seaside if they had not completed the building beach walkovers at the ends of the streets leading to the beach? Secondly, the attitude of, oh, this is how it used to be and this is how it has always been done is useless. We have increased visitors and beachgoers every single year. We have more short-term rentals every year. Please start being a forward thinker and trend watchers to realize more development and more people are coming to this area. As commissioners, please act responsibly toward future generations of beachgoers by increasing the beach accesses up and down the coastline of Walton County. Third, I had an unneighborly exchange while walking up and down Montgomery Street. This experience caused me to pause for a moment and ask this of you. Ooh, my goodness, is that me?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Marsh.
Okay. Anyway, please, I ask you to please consider approving and putting in a beach access.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Fletcher.
And I have a copy for file.
Okay, Fletcher, Isis.
I have copies, one for you and one for each commission. It's my name is Fletcher Ice Sachs, I-S-A-C-K-S. I'd like to talk about the stormwater drainage issue at the Headland location and what implications that might have on the entirely new and unprecedented attempt by the county to assert title to the breezeway. If you look at the photographs attached in these documents, you will see the dramatic consequences of two erosion events that have occurred at this location. The first occurred in the early 70s when my grandparents owned the property on the east side of the breezeway. The second happened in September of last year, flooding of the home before blowing out the canyon to the beach. Both of these extremely destructive events were the direct result of the county's longstanding neglect of the stormwater accumulation problem that has been well-observed phenomenon on that street for the last 60 years. The former Seagrove Manor Motel that occupied the site to the west side of the breezeway regularly experienced flooding in the units adjacent to the intersection of Headland and Montgomery. At no time during the past 60 years or more did the county ever do anything to alleviate this condition. That is until the day after the most recent blowout and erosion event last fall, depicted in the attached photos. Upon the advice of a local engineer, before and after this event, the county hastily dug a swale to the green strip to catch the first flush of heavy rain so that it could percolate into the sand rather than cause another mini Grand Canyon, as had happened the day prior. Please note the attached photos from June of 2016. Still flooding. It should also be noted here that in the aftermath of each of these two near catastrophic erosion events, the county made no attempt to assist the adjacent property owners in repairing the damage caused by its own failure to rectify a long existing stormwater issue in the paved street, over which we all agree it holds total responsibility. Indeed, after both the 1970s and the recent events, adjacent property owners were required to restore the area at their own expense, to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars. The recent event alone cost a family member of mine $80,000 and included an engineered structural solution to protect the compromised foundation of his home. And this doesn't even touch on the fact that his share of the beach restoration of the 2004-2005 hurricane damage, which included the beachfront of the strip in question, amounted to more than $200,000. So, ladies and gentlemen of the Commission, we are to assume that in your zeal to exercise the county's undiscerned ownership rights to the strip of land in question, that you will also agree to pay for the costs incurred to the neighboring property owners as a result of the county's negligence on the 60-year stormwater drain solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Bynum McQuiston.
Thank you. Bonnie McQuiston, McQuiston. I want to clarify, let's right up front clarify that this is the Walton County TDC, not the South Walton TDC as it has been referred to in many articles. It's the Walton County TDC. I agree with, I think it was Brian, I think Brian's the one who made the initial presentation, that we need as many public beach accesses as we can get. We need real public beach accesses. We need to spend the TDC money with the highest and best use. We need accesses where there is parking for the public. And I was not involved in this issue before, but since you have reopened it, I took it upon myself to go and drive and look at this access, and I've driven that 3 times now. I started at 395 and 30A and drove to San Juan, and within that, mile and a half, about a mile, there are 7 beach accesses, not including the ones on Montgomery, 7 beach accesses from 30A to the beach. Now remember, the people on the beach, they have beach access. This would have to be for those people north of 30A. Then you take the little jag leg on Montgomery, and if you go 4 houses, there's a beach access. 2 houses, a beach access. 3 houses, 4 houses, a beach access. Very short distance, Montgomery Street. So but from 395 to San Juan, I counted 10 beach access, and I may have missed some. At this particular place on Headland, I couldn't find where I was supposed to be looking because there's just a drainage ditch there with an open pipe. It goes about 12 feet and then there's nothing. Then there's someone's yard or, it doesn't go to the beach. If you turn north on Headland, you go about 300 feet to the parking lot of Whiskey Bravo, and if you turn south, you go about 50 feet to an absolute blind corner, and this ditch is blind. I don't think a rescue fire engine could get through there. I don't see how 2 cars could pass, but anyway, it is a very blind corner, and if someone were going to walk there are no houses, by the way, no houses on the north side or the south side of Headland, and then if you turn on Montgomery, if someone's going to go to that distance, walk another 75 feet and you have a beach access. So I think we can use the TDC funds to buy public beach access where the public can actually go. And I think if we look at parking, I hope that Brian is looking at, the TDC's looking at parking. We need it desperately. So I think you voted correctly the first time. And I'm glad there's going to be an overall plan which shows, let's see how many of these small neighborhood accesses we actually have, and do we need a 4th one in a very short distance, or do we need to use that money to actually let the public access the beach? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next we have Menzel White.
Menzel White, W-H-I-T-E. This entire debate is basically a long-simmering issue pursued by a few disgruntled neighbors, closely tied to litigation over a separate dispute within a subdivision. The main supporter lives several blocks from the area in contention. He and his family have 4 beach accesses that are closer to this home. 3 maintained by the county plus 1 ad hoc access currently involved in the litigation I've just talked about and built in an area not intended for such use in the original subdivision covenants. These neighbors have waged a constant effort for many years to have the county usurp the breezeways between all the houses that were platted for the free flow of light and air, but not beach access. These people take the virtually unsupported position that the breezeways belong to the county, even though the county specifically excluded them in 1949 when it accepted the streets and the beach as dedicated to the public by the original developers. This family has essentially waged a campaign against the beachfront property owners of Montgomery Street. They often cast aspersions against their neighbors as greedy rich people trying to deny beach access to other neighbors. Nothing could be further from the truth. Montgomery Street currently has 3 county-maintained public accesses in an entirely public beach. To my knowledge, no beachfront owner has ever challenged that. But there's always been ample beach access on the street. 3 blocks with 3 public accesses. That's all it is. 3 blocks long, 3 accesses. Indeed, the area is unparalleled along 30A when it comes to beach access. So much so that Montgomery Street has become a mecca for golf carts from distant areas loaded with beach goers and who park illegally and make it impossible for emergency vehicles to enter the area. So with all this free and unencumbered beach accesses, 3 accesses in 3 blocks, why is the county insisting on yet another access at Headland Avenue, where none has ever existed before, contrary to the statement of Mr. Kellenberger earlier? Customary or otherwise, would maintain that another access will simply, I maintain that another access will simply attract more golf carts, more people from farther distances away. It will attract more vendors to place more setups on an already tight, congested, and narrow residential street, 3 blocks long. And all the while, we can count actual miles along 30A with absolutely no public access at all. Huge swaths of 30A have little or no access, requiring residents and visitors to drive significant distances to use the beach. Why not expand access where it is needed instead of destroying the tranquility of one particular neighborhood in order to accommodate the rants of a few individuals who, for a reason unknown to me, seem to hold grudges against all their neighbors? This is the best holistic use of funds that the BCC can come up with in the light of all the pressing issues that we have now in the near future that are probably going to literally drive people away from this once idyllic area. Thank you.
Thank you. Skip Moore. And I would like to ask you, Mr. Moore, come forward. Best use of our time, because I've counted the number of names, and we have more names than we have 3 minutes. If you agree with the person that spoke before you and don't have anything extra to add, just say, hey, you know what, I agree with him, because it might give somebody further down the line the chance to say something different. But with that being said, you have the floor.
All right, my name is Skip Moore, M-O-O-R-E, and I do agree with the person before me, but I have some other things to say.
Okay.
My wife, Victoria, and I own 723 Whiskey Bravo, which is just to the north of the access that's being proposed or has been voted against previously and now being proposed or discussed again. I'd like to remind folks, when we got our final order for the construction of Whiskey Bravo, we were asked by the county, or basically demanded by the county, to give 2 feet of our easement on Headland and improve Headland to the north. And the 4 of you who were there during the time of that discussion recall that it was the reason that we needed to deed the 2 feet is because of your concern about safety on Headland. Now, I would have to think that there's even more traffic on Headland today than there was then when it was unimproved. So I would have to remind you that, look, it was an issue then, and it's still a considerable issue today. We've taken pictures and we've shared some with some of you. There's just no room. If there's 2 cars on Headland, there is absolutely no room at all for a pedestrian to be there. And it's almost a trap for people to come down Birmingham, turn on to Headland, and think that they can cross there. There's no sidewalks. There's no room for. The 2 cars would take up the entire road. Secondly, I'm glad TDC and others are looking at parking, because currently 723 Whiskey Bravo is used for parking for a considerable amount of parking for those trying to use the Gardenia access, which is at 300 feet away from this proposed access today. I mean, we have cars in our parking lot consistently, and it's not just the visitors that are coming into the area, but we have local people in that parking lot parking there. We have people renting homes from some of the people in this room, and it just can't continue. We have 75 employees on that property, and most of them, or all of them, are Walton County residents, and most of them, are the primary bread earner for their family. And we can't allow our parking to be used for these beach accesses. So please consider that when you're looking at this. It's an unsafe issue. There is no parking there. We cannot afford to give the county parking in our parking lot for another beach access. And, and in our opinion, with all the other accesses, it's just a terrible use of county funds and taxpayer money. Thank you very much.
All right, next, Tim Wilbanks.
Tim Wilbanks, Wilbanks. I'd like to read a letter that one of the residents on Montgomery Street sent me. This is from Peggy Etheridge Koblenzer. She said, I live at 76 Montgomery Street. This home was purchased by my family in the 1950s. I have been at this residence since that time. I have watched this entire area change over the past 50 years. More and more people have come to this area, and now it's simply crowded. There are already 3 current beach access points on Montgomery Street, as we've stated. A 4th one at Headland Avenue will not serve anyone any purpose. It's a blind curve, and our daughter was hit by a car on her bicycle at this very corner about 20 years ago. 20 years ago, she was hit at this busy street. There's no reason to have an access there when there are already 3 on the street. I can't stress enough to you how dangerous this blind curve is. It's just not a wise location, and it's not a wise use of taxpayer monies. If my daughter was hit by a car at this location when it was not as busy as it is today, I wonder if the county could be sued for placing access in such an unsafe place. When making your decision, please consider the safety of the many children and their families who come to the beach. It just takes one child to be hurt or killed at this dangerous blind curve. There are no sidewalks on Headland Avenue, no legal parking, and this is an extremely narrow street. You could put up warning signs, but that will not prevent accidents, as kids are kids and accidents happen. It will be so crowded with bikes, cars, golf carts, kids, teenagers, and there's bound to be an accident at this unsafe access point. I also received a letter that from Emily Bowen, who lives at 90 Montgomery Street, that could not be here and asked that this be read as well. She said that I'd also like to, Bill and I feel that it is very important to emphasize the safety aspect of the proposed beach walkover. That corner is very dangerous. We have both come close to hitting cyclists and pedestrians as we come around the corner, and likewise we have almost been hit by cars. If the commissioners add more bicycles, more pedestrians, more golf carts, and more cars, who are, by the way, double parked for unloading, then the commissioners are creating a safety hazard. When, not if, someone gets hurt at the corner because of the addition of the unnecessary beach walk, it will be the responsibility of the commissioners. They have been warned. I'd like to have just a few more seconds. I want to clarify something that Mr. Kellenberger said. I purchased the lot just to the west of this access, and this is stated in his presentation that Leonard brought up, that the NBA boardwalk was not part of Seagrove Villas. I bought the access part that was with Seagrove Villas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Kim Wilbanks.
Kim Wilbanks, Wilbanks. I'm going to skip over any redundancy about the blind corner and the safety issues and head right to the heart of why I think we keep revisiting this project. It's because I think the Ellises and company are furious about the large homes that have been built in the area, especially on their end of the street, most specifically the 3-story home directly across from them that blocked their view and challenged their use of the breezeway. Last month, when Ms. Ellis, her father, and no one else were allowed to speak, she exposed herself when, instead of arguments for a walkover at Headland, all she talked about were the large houses on her end of the street and her disgust for them. She then moved on to talk about what she perceives as our indiscretions, her voice rising with every word. What does all this have to do with needing a walkover? Absolutely nothing. My husband and I have done nothing but build our dream home on the beach. We showed up to the April Commission meeting to express our opposition to this walkover, and ever since we've been vilified in the paper and on social media by these people that we don't know and who don't know us. The 3 of you who didn't vote their way in April have been attacked in much the same way, and the way that Commissioner Jones has been portrayed is absolutely vile and disgusting. We've been cussed out and harassed at our home by the Butellas and the Ellises. We've been told that we don't matter and to go back where we came from by these people. Furthermore, for anyone to say this sliver of property is worth $1.2 million is an insult to all our intelligence, and you should all be offended. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have Karen Bennett. And then Celeste Cabina, if you want to be ready after that. Celeste? Ms. Bennett?
Hi, my name is Karen Bennett, spelled Bennett. I want to give just a little bit of a different viewpoint. I own a vacation rental business in the area. I've got properties that are in primarily Seagrove, but also Blue Mountain and Grayton Beach. I'm also a local realtor in the area, and I can speak for the area that I'm most familiar with, which is not Inlet Beach or Rosemary Beach and those areas, but in the proximity that I am talking about. And as a realtor too, I've never had any guest ever contact me and say, I can't find a way to get to the beach. I mean, it's just crazy. We are very, very fortunate in this area to have a lot of beach accesses. If you go to some other areas, it's not as convenient as we have made it here, and they've done a really good job of that, and that's what I think you were talking about from the TDC. We do need to look at what we have already. This area does have a lot of accesses for these people to get to the beach. The one that you're discussing is not going to provide any additional people access to the beach. It might give somebody, maybe save them a few, 100 feet walking distance, but that's not what we need to be doing, to spend money on something just to give somebody a little bit more convenience. Now, the problem that we do have is that people want to get closer to the beach. They want to have parking at the beach, and that's great. It's also very hard to find that. I actually happen to own a property right beside one of the beach accesses. I deal with it all the time. I have a no parking sign right beside my driveway. Every weekend, I have golf carts and bikes blocking my driveway. I have to move them. I have to go find the owners. I have to deal with that. I'm okay with that, but it does get a little old. We've had neighbors in our neighborhood that are having to fence in their vacant lots because people decided that they think they should be able to park a golf cart there or bikes there or whatever they want. One of the issues that I do think we need to look at is Bramble Grove is a huge parking beach access, which is very close to this area. It is fantastic, but you know what the problem is? Nobody knows it's there. There's a little bitty sign that says Bramble Grove. There's no address. You can't find it on the TDC website. Nobody knows that it's a public beach access. It has handicap. I mean, there's a lot of features there, but it's not being advertised. So you can drive by there anytime, and you will see that all that parking is not being used. So there is parking for beach accesses. People are just inherently lazy, and they want to go to the closest and easiest way to do that. And they'll do that whether it's legal or not legal to have a golf cart or bike or whatever else they need. So I am definitely against this, and I hope you will stick with your original decision, because I do think it would be a waste of money just to provide an access for somebody to save 200-300 feet most from walking distance to get to the beach. Thank you.
Thank you. Celeste.
Celeste Cabina, and I'm in favor of putting in a walkover here because I feel like Walton County needs to think into the future, and we've gotten ourselves in a lot of situations here in Walton County because it says, well, we don't need this now. But moving forward, Walton County needs every beach access that is available that they own, have the right to, or whatever. And, we need to plan not for now, we need to plan for the future. And this is going to be a walkover, and I like the idea. I think we need, not only do we need the big regional parking accesses, but we need the neighborhood accesses so that people, especially in areas where people live, you want to sometimes don't drag everything you own. You're just going to walk down and watch the sunset. Walk down and watch, the water for a little while. And I believe the more of these kinds of accesses we have, the less pressure it's going to take off of all of the accesses. And, if you let stormwater issues stop a project, we would have absolutely no private projects going on. And I think it's time the county, through this whole putting in a boardwalk here and a small access here, takes the initiative to fix all of the stormwater issues. I've got a couple of small accesses in my neighborhood, and people use all of them, and it keeps things from getting too congested.
Thank you. Next, I have Lois James.
I'm going to concur with Celeste, and I came here today because I support your beach access, and as many as we can get. We've invited all these people here, and we're gonna have to take care of them. And I do know that when you're opposed to something, you get out here and you speak, and I've been among people that, and been one of them.
Okay, ma'am, if you're gonna speak any further, you're gonna have to come up to the microphone, because she can't pick you up.
Okay, I'm in favor of it.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Grace Marsh. And then Mr. Hugh after Miss Grace. No, she read a letter for another lady.
I read a letter from...
She read a letter for Heidi Ellis.
Thank you for holding this workshop, Commissioners. I'm Grace Morris, for the record, M-A-R-C again, and a homeowner in the Sea Highland Plat for 54 years. I've been here so long that I can remember that our mortgage payment was only $100 a month. I am requesting that you please build this neighborhood beach walkover at South Headlands Avenue with only a path to the beach and a bicycle rack. And I'm going to skip over because you know it is on a county-owned road, and the engineering and construction involved in this county is under a county bed tax income and the TDC. And I want to do a little I've watched, they said, oh, all these accesses are in that area. We have so many. If you've ever driven on 30A and you watch people try to get across the street to use the little narrow paths at Gardenia, which several of the neighbors have quoted, there is no crosswalk there. These people are darting in and out of traffic with their babies and their push carts and their whatevers. It is very, very unsafe. The dead-end situation where people are running out and there's no parking, it's duplicated at Dothan Avenue. It works beautifully once it is established. And the runoff, we just spent thousands of dollars down at Dothan Avenue for the runoff, and it solved that problem. I ask you to please, please put in a walkover at Headlands Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hugh.
I'm Hugh Marsh, M-A-R-S-E. I just have a few facts that I'd like you to think about when you're deciding on this issue. And the first one is the fact that Headlands is a county-owned road in a long-developed plat. I'm going to pass out the plat so that you can see the plat, and also a memo from a county attorney that acknowledges that the county has accepted the road. Secondly, it's a road maintained by the county. Now, granted, they haven't done a great job all the time, but for the past 21 years that I've been checking that list of county roads maintained by the county, they've acknowledged that they have the responsibility to do that. Third, it's fact. The county has allowed an abutting property owner to incorporate county-owned and maintained, quote, maintained roads as part of their landscape yard. The portion of Headlands Avenue that they have absorbed into their own property is 150 feet by 120 feet. And this goes from Montgomery Street all the way down to the top of the Gulf Bluff. Now, I'll have to say that property owner is not part of the Sea Highland subdivision, but purchased property in the abutting Seagrove subdivision. Plats of what the road looks like now, and the deed to the property owner that has absorbed this property, which is county-owned, it's not even in that subdivision. Question. I've been a homeowner in Sea Highland subdivision for 54 years. I'm not aware of any action by any party to abandon that road, that portion of Headlands, Madam Chair, are you aware of any actions to abandon a portion of Headland Avenue?
I can't answer that question, sir. I don't know. I haven't been here quite as long as you have, Mr. Martin.
Possible solutions. TDC has constructed a public beach walker of Headland Avenue. It's on a maintained and county-owned road. It's leading to a county-owned beach. And in fact, the county owns not only that beach in front of Sea Highlands, but also the adjacent Seagrove Beach subdivision. I think Seagrove beach access would lead to approximately 1 mile of county-owned beach. Time's up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, Jan Perkins.
Hello all, thanks for taking the time to work on this big issue. First of all, the pictures in your thing.
Would you spell your last name, please?
Perkins.
Thank you, sir.
I own 2 properties down there, one in Sugarwood and one on Andalusia and Montgomery. I'm for more beach accesses. Whether this is the right spot for one or not, I'm not sure. But I'd also ask the TDC to look into fixing the accesses that we have there now. They've removed the old bike parking there and installed these brown things that don't hold enough bikes for what shows up there. I've sent a picture that I took on my way here today to Ms. Meadows. I'd like that entered into the record that shows the Sugarwood access with at least 50 bikes there scattered all over the road. And I would accept that we would try to fix the parking issues there, fix the road there that's falling apart on Montgomery, and take care of what we need to take care of there. I didn't really plan to speak, but...
And we thank you for that. As I say, the issues here today are on Headland, but if you will let the TDC know about that, email them, then they will take a look and try to take care of it for you. Next, we have Linda Cook. C-O-O-K.
I'm Linda Cook, and I'm in favor of the Headlands walkover and any other walkover that the TDC has the money and wants to put in. Because if we're going to continue to market this area, you need as many as you can. You need as much parking. If you're going to continue to allow like 14,000 square foot homes being built, there is one between us and Seaside, you're going to need more accesses. I don't believe this access will be used primarily by driving people. The people in Headlands have talked about, this is for Headlands. We live in a development behind called Sugarwood. There's 63 lots in there. As each and every lot sells, there's bigger and bigger homes. The most recent ones are like 6,000 square foot homes going in there. They're renting to a lot of people with a lot of golf courses. If that's going to happen, we need ways for those people to be able to get to the beach. And next to us, also in Highlands, is Grove by the Sea. I don't know how many homes are in there, but there've got to be over 100 homes. Those are the people that are going to walk across, and use those beaches. So I think if you're going to continue to bring people in, you need to do that. Also, I just want to point out that on your map, Greenwood is actually Highlands, and Highlands is actually, I live off of this one, and I know which one it is. So these 2 pictures for Andalusia and Greenland. Not Headland, I said Headland. Greenwood is actually Andalusia, and Andalusia is actually Greenwood. I'm almost positive. But anyway, I just wanted to say I am in favor of.
And your last name is spelled Cook, C-O-O-K?
C-O-O-K. Any of them that you can build. And yes, I know someone pointed out that down the road there's miles where there are no accesses. Well, there are not as many people in those places. You've got a lot of people in Seagrove. Seagrove is, for whatever reason, growing like crazy, and you need as many walkovers as you can. And I have every confidence that the county will be able to solve whatever the drainage problem is. I don't see the drainage problem, but whatever it is, I'm sure y'all can solve it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Kay, is it brief? And then after Kay, Jackie Merkel, okay?
Hi, I have some photos. My name is Kay Brief, and I live in Sugarwood Beach at 247 Wood Beach.
Would you spell your last name, please?
B as in boy, R-I-E, F as in Frank. And I am very much in favor of this Headlands public access. Plats show that the Headlands access was intended to be and is public. That means access for residents, visitors, and taxpayers. Instead, adjacent beachfront property owners have covered the access with trees, shrubs, and a no trespassing sign. Not only are they blocking public access, they are privatizing the beach. We are retired taxpayers who live in Sugarwood Beach, off the beach, and of course we wish we could have afforded the beachfront. Our beach access is Greenwood, the nearest to Headlands. As the giant push-the-building code houses are completed, our access is being filled with rental company beach chairs, and yet there are none, of course, in front of the Headlands access. About 50 feet from the Headlands access, there is a rental house with 18 bicycles parked in front. This was this morning. At the Greenwood access, there are 18 rental chairs in a semicircle. Is that a coincidence? And this is not even, these pictures are not even from the 4th of July, but they show the increase in visitors and chairs and people, and some of those were taken even in the morning before people showed up. Visitors are being pushed to other accesses, and those numbers will grow dramatically with the completion of more oversized rental properties. There's even a 17,000 square foot house going up on 30A. It looks like a hotel. South Walton beaches financially power the rest of the county, schools, roads, government, yet the needs of its taxpayers and residents are sometimes overlooked, it seems, in the quest for dollars. This access situation seems to favor special interest and beachfront property owners who want to privatize our beaches. Florida beaches are for all of us. Please take another vote on the Headlands access. It's public. There's TDC funding to pay for it. And please stand up for public rights. It's the right thing to do. And I also want to point out that I don't see these parking issues along Montgomery because there are no places to park. People walk, people bike, and that's what it seems that these are intended to do, to allow people to funnel down to the beach, enjoy it, to walk, and not have to drive, and load up the cars, as somebody had said. So thank you for your listening.
Miss Jackie.
Jackie Markel, M-A-R-K-E-L. I've been before you many times talking about beach accesses. We need everyone that we can get. We've got a projected 1 million tourists, additional tourists coming here in the next 5 years. Seagrove is growing like gangbusters. If the county has the right to this, we can put the beach access in there, fix the drainage issue, and as far as the safety issue goes, I'm very sensitive to that. But it seems like every time there's opposition to a beach access or an expanding a neighborhood access, the safety issue comes up. If the blind corner turn is so dangerous, then why doesn't the county exercise their right to the full right of that width of that road and eliminate that safety issue if everybody seems so concerned about that? If that's a real issue, let's take care of it, and if there are some obstructions there, let's take that down. Let's remove it. Let's take that safety issue away if that is really the issue. But we need all of the above. We need the neighborhood accesses. Like Jay said, we need to look at the areas where we don't have a lot of accesses now. We needed all of the above, and we do need to look into the future. We need to look 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road. And the question of whether or not this beach is needed, this access is needed 30 years down the road, I don't even think there'll be a question about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mega. Is there somebody with the last name of Mega? Tom, M-E-M-I-G-A. No, is it Judge McGee? Is it Judge McGee? All right. You're right, Judge McGee. I'm sorry. No, it's not, and that's why, that's 510, yeah. That's why I'm marked.
Thank you.
Can I cut this off even though I have people?
My name is Tom McGee, MCGEE. I don't know where that other one came from. Thank you for the opportunity to hear us on this issue. Again today, I am in favor of preserving this access and creating it in whatever way we can. Y'all are taking up the thorny issue of customary use. And if we recognize the customary use of the public to these beaches, we're going to need all of the accesses that we can have. We're getting more and more visitors in this part of the world, and if any of y'all have ever tried to get from 30A to 395, you will see the congestion there.
Whose phone?
Pardon me, I've had a little flu here or something, but I had to come here today. One of the things that I want to speak to, I must preface this by saying I am not speaking on behalf of South Walton Fire Department as a public official, because this has not come before our board. But I am speaking as an individual who happens to be the commissioner of District 2 of the fire department. And I have gone to this area and looked with Mr. Marsh at the issue here. And I'm very concerned about access for safety vehicles. If you look at Montgomery, I'm not sure that we can get, and I spoke with Fire Marshal Sanchez on this issue, and we looked at it on Google, and he's gone out and looked at it in person. And I'm not sure that we can get fire emergency vehicles down Montgomery the way it's configured right now. In fact, the chief told me at one time, when we did get a ladder truck down, overhanging limbs tore part of it off that cost us quite a few $1,000s. But there is on Headlands an area that you can get an emergency vehicle in to this particular access. And so I'm not sure how many of these accesses on Montgomery Street we can get to with our fire equipment and our emergency equipment. So I endorse looking at this access as an opportunity, and hope that you will too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm sorry we have 7 more names on here, but we do not have the time right now. We're running out of time because we do have a meeting starting at 4 o'clock. Board members, do you have any questions or any comments you would like to make at this time? Seeing none, then we will stand adjourned until 4 o'clock. Thank you. We would like to welcome you to our regular meeting of the Walton County Board of County Commissioners on this July the 12th, this auspicious July the 12th after the 4th of July. I'd like to remind everybody that wasn't in the workshop, if you have a cell phone or anything that beeps or buzzes or makes a noise, if you would please cut it off for us at this time. It's a distraction not only to those around you, but to those up here as well. If you would stand for me, please, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation. And dear Heavenly Father, I would like to thank you for this opportunity for us to come together and to conduct the work of this great county. We represent so many wonderful people that live here and work here, and we ask that you will give us guidance and wisdom so that we can do everything that will benefit them and will honor you. And I especially want to thank you, Lord, this afternoon for the life of everyone represented around this board. Each one of us have work to do, and we work together so that we can benefit the people of Walton County and I thank you for the part that each one of them plays in making this a better place to live. We thank you for our firemen, our policemen, those that keep us safe every day. We pray for their safety, Lord. We pray that you will somehow bring healing to this country so that hatred can go by the wayside and that we can all work together so that it will be a better country for all of us. And we pray for the families in Dallas who've lost loved ones, if you will take them and hold them close and give them comfort. For all these things we ask in thy name. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'm looking around. Do we have any guests this evening? Mr. Alex, good to see you here. And I am going to embarrass her. I told her I wouldn't. I know she's looking at me now. One of the most beautiful young women in Walton County is present here this afternoon. My younger daughter, Robin, is with us, and I want to thank her for coming to this meeting tonight. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you being my daughter, by the way.
Is there a special reason she's out here? There's a special reason, isn't there?
No, sir. She just thought she'd come and see me.
Yeah, ain't there a birthday tomorrow?
Her birthday's not till December. No, sir.
Your birthday's tomorrow.
Yes, they are right. I have a birthday tomorrow and darn proud of it after, happened. I'm proud I'm still alive after the concrete and I met and the concrete won. So I do. So thank you for all your birthday wishes, and also those of you who have sent me good wishes after this happened. I appreciate all your prayers and all your kind words. They meant a lot. So now we will consider any additions or deletions to the agenda. Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, we do have one request of deletions. Actually, it's two items, but they're relating to the same topic. As you know, we've been working very diligently to move forward the Western Lake pedestrian bridge improvements through the process, received bids, and we had issue with the low bid and their financials and some situations there that we were not comfortable with making that award, so we recommended to move it to the second low bid. Had a much greater level of confidence in getting the work done. But in the state, in their great wisdom, as they're participating in this project with funding, has said time out. They want to review that process to be assured that we did the right thing, which we certainly feel we did. But anyway, the request was to have you award the invitation to bid to North Florida Construction in number 3, and in number 4, request to approve, authorize the chair to sign the contract with North Florida Construction. So we're asking those be removed from the agenda for consideration as soon as we hear back from the state and get their approval on the contract.
Do we have any idea how long that's going to be? Because everybody asks, why isn't infrastructure done? Why can't you get these things done? And this is just a prime example. We've been waiting on this bridge for over a year.
I think we need to give them the number of in Tallahassee and let them call Tallahassee.
I spoke with Buddy yesterday, and he said it should probably be about 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay.
We will make some calls and see if we can speed that up a tad.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda with the deletions?
So moved.
We have a motion and second. Is there any discussion among the board? Seeing none, anyone in the audience like to comment on this issue? If not, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. All right, at this time we have public comment. Now, the public comment at this time is on anything that is on the agenda. If you have something that you'd like to speak about that is not on the agenda, we will entertain that at the end of our meeting. But right now, if you have something that you would like to speak about that's on the agenda, you're welcome to come up. You have 3 minutes. No one? All right, we'll move on. Are there any items that you want removed from the consent agenda for further discussion? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
All right, do I have a second? Second. All right, is there any discussion? Seeing none, anyone in the audience? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda? Aye. Motion carries. All righty. Next, we have the Waste Management EAL. Mr. Chapman?
Madam Chair, I'm acknowledging my conflict of interest. I've filed a proper form with the clerk's office, and I will abstain from that vote.
Thank you, sir. I have a motion to approve the EAL. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Anyone in the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Mr. Jones?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, the first item is a request from the Building Department, and the request is to accept Sudell Wilkerson's resignation from the Contractors Competency Board and to appoint Bob Hoke as a replacement member of that board. So we would recommend your approval.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion? Anyone in the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carries, and we will be sending Ms. Wilkerson a thank you letter for her service. Very good.
Thank you, Commissioners. Next item, if you recall, the contracts with our continuing services engineers are all expiring over the next couple of months. We put that out for request for qualifications. We received 14 responses to that request. We have provided you each with copies of those submittals. I know it's been very busy with the FACT conference week before last and all that's been going on in the last week. So you may or you may not have had a chance to select those that you'd wish to have move forward to make presentations. If you're ready to do that today, we certainly could, or if not, we would allow you, suggest.
When did you give us copies of all those?
Should have been the day after the last board meeting. You hadn't seen them?
I've not seen them.
Okay.
Have not gotten them.
That's fine. Okay.
Yeah, there were 14 books,
Yeah,
of which I read everything.
I would have known.
Yeah,
I would have
so.
known if
Okay.
I'd gotten 14. I didn't.
Then our apologies. So if with your concurrence, we would suggest that you review those over the next 2 weeks and bring back a number, and that's one of the things we want to decide is how many of those 14 would you like to make presentation to the board?
All right. So that will be brought back to us. What's our next meeting? At our next board meeting in July 26th. The 26th. Can you be ready?
Yeah, and our apologies. We'll make sure you have them tomorrow. So we're all consistent moving forward. Is there a number of those 14 that you would like to come before the board to make presentations?
Well, we had 3 before.
Yes, sir.
And then there's been some discussion at the board meetings concerning whether we are to expand that to maybe 4 due to some of the projects that are coming online or needing to come online. And so we can expedite that. So maybe 4 is a good number to consider bringing forward.
Well, if we're going to look at hiring 4, why don't we interview 6?
I would say at least 6. So if you would, at the next board meeting, just bring a list of those 6 out of the 14 that you would like to see make presentations, and we'll take those that are most common amongst the 6 most common amongst those you select, and we'll schedule a time.
We picked 4. 4 actually, we'll have 4 continuing consultants.
If that's the direction of the board. Right now we have 3.
3.
There's been some discussion that due to the workload that's coming out, that we may could use an additional one. So at that time, but we'll get you, make sure you got the right information to bring that back at the next meeting.
Okay.
And we're going to come back to that in just a second. If you allow us, the next item on the agenda is to request you approve the resolution of the Walton County relating to the provision of fire rescue services. This is the rate resolution that we adopt each year for the MSBUs for fire. We're not recommending any changes. If you've reviewed it, you notice that the city of Freeport is included in it this year. That will allow them to participate in the collection of the fees that are assessed in the city of Freeport, which is part of our agreement with that city. So we would recommend your approval, but if you have any questions, we'll do our best to answer.
Is it $75? Is that what
Yes,
we're
ma'am.
at right now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion among the board? Anyone in the audience like to comment on this issue? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you. The next item is a request for direction to schedule a date and time to interview the top 3 engineering firms for RFQ 016-014. This is for engineering services for County Road 395 North Road reconstruction in addition to the multi-use path. Now, while I mentioned we would go back to the others, you've got 6 engineering firms there, and you'll have 3 here to have them make presentations and select on qualifications those you want to be part of our continuing service contract, and this one would be for the 395 road project. So we've got potentially 9 different presentations from engineering firms. Is that something you would want to do at a special separate meeting, or just add it on to maybe before the next meeting in the South County? I mean, you can just stretch a meeting out is all I'm saying. We can do it ever how you want to do it, but what we'd like to do is go ahead and set the date that we're going to hear both of these. Here.
Why don't we do it in North Walton, because those meetings are always shorter.
Well,
after
it will be the end of August if we did it at the regular North Walton meeting, because we don't have them.
Didn't we switch meetings in August because of the
yes, we
voting?
did. Yeah. Okay, very good.
But we
So-
kept the time, like down here it's gonna be 9 o'clock, up there it's gonna be.
That's true. That's true.
What now? Go ahead, say that again.
We did switch meetings, but the Funiac meeting will be an evening meeting, and the South Walton meeting will be a morning meeting. But we could set it for.
But the evening one, it'll be shorter though, because it's, it's always shorter. So I would rather do it before or after that our short meeting.
You don't have a special, like start at 3 o'clock and do it? Are you
No, what date is that?
It'll be the second Tuesday of August 9th. We can certainly do maybe the 6th prior to, and then do the 3 during the meeting, if that would work.
Yeah, that's
okay. All
So
right.
you want to start at 3 o'clock with the 6?
Continuing service engineers, and then we'll do the 3.
The 3 in the meeting
in the
itself.
meeting or after the meeting.
Yeah. On the 9th.
On August the 9th.
On August the 9th, but it will be a
And that's
special
in Defunian.
meeting
Yeah. Okay.
and not a workshop, so that we can vote.
Correct.
Right, okay.
Got it?
Okay.
That works.
Okay.
All right.
Do we need a motion to that effect, please?
No, ma'am, that's just scheduling.
Okay.
Oh, no, you do need a motion to set a special meeting. My apologies.
So
I need a
moved.
motion, please.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, anyone in the audience? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Amen.
Thank you, Commissioners. That came in a lot clearer than it was in my mind, so I appreciate your working with us.
And what is really frightening is that we all understood you.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the experience, I hope. Next item is a request approval to advertise for the construction bids on County Road 183 North, or Kidd Road. This is a small county road assistance program improvement project. That project has been designed, engineered, and is ready to go to bid.
All right.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion? Anyone in the audience want to ask a question about this particular item? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Next item is a request, your approval to advertise for construction bids for North Walton, not North, Walton Bridge Road from south of Doctors Road to Rock Hill Road upon receipt of the notice to proceed by the FDOT. So this road again is ready to move forward as soon as we get the notice to proceed from DOT, and we anticipate that in short order. So we'd recommend your approval.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion? Is that a scope or Scott grant, or is it scrap grant? Okay. Just wanted
Yes, ma'am.
scrap grant. Okay. Anyone in the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
And Ms. Melissa Thomason has the information for the next request.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, Melissa Thomason, OMB. Today you have a resolution before you that we are asking you to approve, setting the percentage for the South Walton tax increment area for the 2016-2017 fiscal year. Going by what we discussed at the budget workshop yesterday, a percentage of 28.23% will generate just over $3 million into the TIF fund for next fiscal year. So we're asking you to approve that today.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Is there any discussion among the board? Anyone in the audience like to comment on this issue? I can't see around. I'm seeing. Do I see anybody? No. All right. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Mr. Tucson.
Good afternoon again, Madam Chair, Commissioners. A couple of things on the agenda tonight. One is a little bit lengthy. We're going to have a presentation by Dan Fenton with Jones Lang LaSalle. Dan came and presented to you on April 12th, talking about our strategic planning process and how we're moving forward with that. So Dan will be going through the TDC Council, the roles and responsibilities, and then when he's done with that, we'll ask for you to approve that, and if we need to make any changes, obviously we'll address that then before we do the approval process. This is part of our strategic plan that we're working on. This is just the first stage of it. We've kind of been identifying within the organization kind of where we are, what the next steps are. So tomorrow, actually, Dan and I will be going through all departments within the TDC and starting that process. And we're thinking it'll probably take us 2 to 4 months to go through this process. But I think it's been great. We started right when I started back in April, and Dan's been great to work with. And I think we have some great ideas of how to move the TDC forward. So I'm going to let Dan come forward and present, and then I'll come back when he's through.
Great. All right, Dan, as you approach, would you spell your name for the record of the clerk?
Yeah, Dan Fenton with Jones Lang LaSalle. Happy to be back, Madam Chairman and the Commission. Really, he said lengthy. We're actually going to try to keep this brief because a lot of this you've seen. So we thought we would go over some of the highlights and then get comments.
Would you spell your last name?
Oh, sorry. F as in Frank, E-N-T-O-N. Okay. So let me just run through a lot of this. Again, you've seen before. After we spoke at the workshop, we did get some feedback. Wanted to make sure there was time for the commissioners to, give us any additional thoughts. Let that happen. So really today is to sort of review this, and I think 2 minutes of background on this, and you can see our goal here to talk a little bit about the proposed model, and then really most important is the approval of the redefined TDC roles and responsibilities. But the sort of background here is that we've spent some time, and you remember this when we came to the workshop, and talked to a lot of people about trying to make sure that we can come up with a plan and an approach that will continue to improve the functionality and the effectiveness of everyone involved. So if you think about the TDC Council and their role and their, if you will, participation, as well as the board here, as well as stakeholders and everyone. And so we've spent some time thinking this through, and again, this is very much similar to what we talked about at the workshop, but we wanted to come today to finalize this and really, we think, send a clear message, from the board to the council to say that there's an expectation in terms of the outcome of this for the council to perform some of these duties and be a key part, really, as Jay mentioned, of the future planning and sort of the direction when it comes to the TDC and bring those recommendations forward here each year and as part of the planning process. So I'll sort of move through this quickly. Just a little bit about this. These are the things that we've gone through. A lot of these are reinforcement, size, makeup, officers, the notion of a board liaison, terms, reminders of open meeting laws, the council responsibilities, which is one thing we do want to focus on today a little bit, is spending some time there. We have specific attendance requirements that we've now built into this, the duties of the council, additional functionalities. This is an opportunity to sort of look at some things that were important. One example you saw in the additional functionalities is making sure there was a good communication plan. So when it came to issues that the council wanted to speak about, what was the right way to do that going forward. Nominating process, if it is approved today, that opens up the opportunity to go to the current council members and talk to them about making sure that they are in fact interested in taking on these responsibilities. And I think Mr. Tewes would agree here, there's a couple of positions that may be open, so an opportunity to bring potentially new members going forward. And so let me just run through some of this with you. A lot of this, again, you've seen, so we'll be quick. This is a little bit of the makeup of the board. One of the things that, if you think about the makeup, that's important is, and one of the reasons we highlight it, is to make sure that as part of the board we have members in that tourism-related category that really are stakeholders who either are owners, managers, or in positions in the industry. So we clarified this with the attorney to sort of make sure that that was an important one. So, for example, this gives us the opportunity to go out to the tourism industry and make sure we're filling those positions with those kind of individuals, which we think bring certain skill set to the council. So that's really, if you will, it's not necessarily a huge modification, but it's a reinforcement of those positions on the council. You see the terms here. These are, again, similar to what they are now. This issue of council attendance, so we want to be clear that council will continue to meet bi-monthly. There will be an annual planning session that council members will participate in, and also that each council member will participate in one of the TDC committees. The big three here that we talk about, and this is in the council duties too, is making sure that the council members are active participants in the budgeting process, and they're active participants in the marketing plan development and the goal setting process. So we really envision going forward when the budget is presented to the board that the TDC is here, the liaison is here, and can reaffirm to the board that they have spent time, they have thoroughly vetted the budget that's being presented, so that the board has that confidence that that type of engagement is there from the council, which we think is important. And in speaking to council members, I think that this approach will really encourage that type of engagement and we think a more holistic and a more inclusive outcome when it comes to the sort of major planning issues. You'll notice our attendance requirement, and again, I think that this is fairly standard, but to make sure that if you are going to be a member of the TDC and you're going to be on the commission, that you adhere to a minimum attendance standard, both on the committee part and on the meetings, so that we can have continuity. If you look at this next slide, which is the council duties, this is probably one of the most important ones. It kind of reinforces the importance of being a part of the recommendations in the presentation of the annual budget, giving input, to the commissioners and to the board related to the performance of the executive director. So making sure that there's feedback there in that part. Again, engagement in the annual marketing plan, making sure that when that is presented, that the board knows that the commission has been actively involved with that. Same thing with capital budget. So that when the capital items are proposed, knowing that group has been involved. The next one is a standard. It's been an ongoing piece, and their importance of them approving and monitoring the financial statements of the TDC. And then when we talk about goals, one of the things that when Mr. Tewes was talking about the strategic plan, one of the things we want to come out of in the strategic plan is agreed upon metrics, so that there are very clear metrics of success. So when someone says, how is the TDC doing? One of our goals is to have those clear metrics that the board can look at. And again, part of that is setting those goals going forward and making sure that there's engagement there. And the last piece that we have here is the visitor service results. So looking at the customer experience and really being a part of understanding, how is that working? What are visitors saying? What are their comments when it comes to their experience in South Walton County? Oops. Is that me? Okay. This is a couple of pieces that have come in the discussions. We mentioned community participation, but number two, this was an important part of the outcome. One of the things that was discussed was making sure that the TDC has their own kind of internal communication plan. So if there is an issue that commission would like to raise, that they raise it in an organized way, that they get together, talk about it, and then present it in a fashion that is more like you would see a typical commission function. This sort of tries to encourage commission members not to necessarily independently speak on their own and sort of represent the commission without a internal approach to how they're going to do that. So that is something that we got a chance to really kind of reinforce as part of this process. And again, you notice public meetings, just the fact that if you are a commission member, the idea of being present in public meetings is great, so you can show the support for the activities of the TDC. This is a little bit about nominating process, so there will be some open positions here. We talked about the fact that there will be a review committee made up of the TDC executive director, one person appointed by the board, as well as a member from the county administration, and that those three members, if you will, really what they will do as part of the nominating process is they will just screen for compliance, just to make sure that the kind of things that are, like, for example, if you think about the different positions and if there's a requirement to, for example, be a bed tax collector, they'll review the fact that any applicant is compliant, and then those applicants will be brought forward to this board for interviews and approval. So that's a little bit of the nominating process. And again, the nice thing is going forward, when new members come in, of course, they will know ahead of time what we are saying are the requirements and what the expectations are for members of the commission going forward. And again, all the current members, once this is approved by this board, we will go to the current members and talk to them one-on-one and make sure they're comfortable with these new responsibilities. And those that are, our assumption is they will stay on. Those that aren't, we sort of thank them for their service and bring new members to the board to review. So the recommended action today is to approve this approach to the redefined TDC roles and responsibility. And so I think that we've had a great inclusive and thorough process here to come to today and ask for that approval. And Madam Chair, I'll stop here. If you want to take that measure, if you'd like me to talk about next steps or what you think.
Well, let me stop and ask my fellow board members any questions you would like to ask at this time.
What was the committee? Was one commissioner, one TDC director, and then what was the other person? I missed that.
Stan.
Stan. Yeah, one leader in the county administration. Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
If you needed a name, it was Stan.
Right.
Let's clear that up. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen?
I just want to say, as sitting on the commission, representing the commission, it's a really great board to work with, and they're very punctual and very, very involved. So I just want to say that it's just a great board. So
great.
Thank you.
You can go ahead, and then we'll talk. We'll get comments from the audience once you're through.
Okay. So again, next steps is to go to the current committee members after the board approves this and confirm their commitment to the redefined roles, post the open TDC positions, have the review committee screen the candidates and bring them to the board, and based on the action today is then make sure that the new council responsibilities are implemented immediately. So going into the next budget process, all the processes, we want to be able to get them engaged at the level that we're talking about here, so that would move immediately. So those are the next steps.
Very good. I did see one thing that I think perhaps should be added, not only for the TDC board. I think a lot of this applies to the TDC board. A lot of it I think applies to all of our boards in general. There's a lot of information in here that could apply to whatever board we have. But I would also like to see, I don't think you mentioned like annual training on the sunshine, or if they first take office, then they certainly should have some training. It's very important that they know that, who they can talk to, who they can't talk to, and that sort of thing.
Great.
So I think that probably should maybe be added in
Absolutely.
there.
Okay.
That would be my one suggestion. Ms. Meadows, do you have any comments or?
No, the only thing I commented on was the 85% of the meetings is to, maybe define that, make it really clear. Can you miss a meeting? If so, do you have to have an excuse? Or if you have, just all the details of that, because they can get in the weeds very quickly.
Yeah, there's a narrative that sort of behind that. There definitely was some reference to excused absences, and so the ability to have those.
Good, yeah, because
absolutely.
that gets confusing because people don't know.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay. Gentlemen, either one of you? Okay. If not, if you don't mind, I will now open it up. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment, have anything they'd like to bring forward? How did I know it'd be you, Mr. Bagby?
Well, I hope you're doing well. I was so sorry to hear about your fall. And
thank you. This time the concrete won. I'm not saying it's going to win next time.
Oh, it won't win next time. I trust you're a tough lady, so I know that the concrete's got its match met.
Got a few cracks in it.
Yeah. Jim Bagby, B-A-G-B-Y. And I would come as the former executive director, and I would encourage you to support this. I think everything here is a continuation of what we've been trying to do over the last 3 years. I think most of you are familiar with where we were 4 years ago, and we had a board that saw itself as basically a marketing committee and not a financial oversight committee, contrary to the state statute. And I think that you turned that around, and the previous commission turned that around and made very clear to that board that they were an advisory board to you, and their primary function was the oversight of that financial responsibility, because there's a lot of money in that organization, as we all know. I applaud the attempt to develop the metrics. We worked on that for 2 years and we failed. I hope Jay succeeds. And I hope the organization succeeds, because the metrics were very hard, and John and Pamela can tell you that we looked at a bunch of different things and went through a bunch of different iterations. So if we can crack that nut, because I think that gives validity to the organization and shows people that it's actually performing the way you want it to perform, that it's meeting those goals and those objectives in a measurable way. And I think that's important, because too often the only metric we have is the bed tax, and people go, oh, well, the bed tax is up 14%, so the TDC must be doing a great job. That's not necessarily true. It's not necessarily untrue, but the bed tax shouldn't be the only metric. There are other metrics out there, and I know Jay will incorporate those. And I want to thank Dan. He and his team have done a great job. I can't remember. I think it's been going on for 2 years, 2.5 years, since the first time we engaged him, and they continue to do a good job. I would just encourage you to do this. Every one of these things is a continuation of the improvement process that you put in place 3 years ago. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bagby. Is there anyone else? Mr. Osborne. I forgot to ask him to spell his name, Kim, but Mr. Osborne?
For the record, Alan Osborne. Yeah, I don't agree with the policy of restricting board members from having a comment. They're put on that board in the TDC to be members of the public and represent us. And they're going to be exposed to things on there they see. And if they see something that's wrong, according to this policy, they need your permission to tell anybody about it. It's essentially a gag order, saying if you have any opinion on anything that you've seen, you need the consensus of the TDC chair and the board to say something about it publicly. That's just punishment. What if they see something that's wrong and they want to say something about it and they want the public to know? Because that's why they've been put on that board, is to be public representatives for all this money. To tell them they can't say anything is like telling the congressman you can't comment on what happened in Congress. I just don't. I think that's totally against, and I've seen a trend where if you say something in this county, you're off a board. That's wrong. We've done that. We've put people off the planning commission. We put people off code enforcement for filing code enforcement violations. And I guarantee you, if somebody says something this board doesn't like, even if it's true, they broke the policy. And why can't they tell the public what they have? If their opinion is that bad, you can take them off. But what if it's true? What if they see something that's going on? They need your permission to tell. I think that's wrong.
As I understand it, they can come to the podium as a public private person anytime they wish.
That's not what I said, though.
But if
That's
they're
not what I'm
coming
commenting
as a
on.
TDC representative, if they say, I'm speaking on behalf of the TDC, then that applies.
They can say they're on the TDC, and I see this, and that's their opinion. And that's protected by the Constitution, whether you like it or not.
I'm
That's
saying
that's not what I was talking about.
I'm saying they have a right to speak anytime they want to as a
That
citizen.
says they don't.
As a citizen. And if we need to clarify that, am I understanding it correct or?
Yeah, and number two, come on up, but when you're speaking with the media, because I remember a number of years ago when a tragedy happened in this county and someone spoke out and spoke to the media without having the right facts. So, you know, if we're going to have someone that's going to speak to the media, especially the national media, they should have all the facts in the hand. That's kind of how I saw it, is let's let somebody who has the facts speak, you know, but anybody on any board has a right to come before us or to speak as an individual, but for you to say, hey, I'm representing the TDC when you are not given that authority, you know, can be problematic.
Yeah,
Did I say that right?
Yeah, I think the way Vice Chair Jones, you just said that, I think that really is the way that it is designed. It's so that so really what it does is it creates an opportunity for the council themselves to really sort of talk through this and make sure that in fact, whatever that issue is, that it is representative of what the council's view, and then making sure that it's an organized approach. So there could be an issue that is raised by a particular council member and goes in the whole council meets and says, yes, this is a priority, and then they would bring that wherever they would bring it. So that's really what it's designed to do, not limit anybody's individual.
It says media communication. So I took it to mean that, you know, if the national press is calling us or the local press is calling us, you know, y'all are going to have a spokesperson.
Right.
Is that what this is, the intent of this?
It is. And the issue here where it says members will not speak on behalf of the council without express permission, the point of that is that they have gone, if it's going to be a position of the TDC, that then there is a process where there is discussion within the TDC around that issue. And in fact, and this is designed so that the board chair, the executive director, and a designee could be a designee, but it's done through the TDC themselves. Then the message is delivered.
Yeah, I can see Mr. Osborne's point, because that last sentence, it's pretty strong. You know, you can't speak on behalf of the council without permission from the council or the executive director. So I can see where somebody could get in the weeds on that. People know they're on the advice; they're not speaking on behalf, but they know that that person's on the council, and that person is just talking to somebody. And then somebody says, "Oh, you know, you can't say that," because I do see some maybe Attorney Davis some constitutional problems with that. Do you? Is he writing or what?
Well, I actually read it just the opposite, to be honest with you. But okay. I think what we could do is just add a sentence that says this policy is not intended to prevent any board member from speaking on any issue, as long as they're not proclaiming they're speaking on behalf of the TDC.
We can do that. Yeah. Absolutely.
Just a sentence.
Yeah, I think that would be good, because that does sound kind of harsh. Yeah. Like, you know,
I don't see a reason why we couldn't do that.
No, absolutely.
Because you know, I don't feel I don't have, say, a right, for example, to say, well, the Board of County Commissioners believes something, you know, without you all saying, hey, you know, we serve on a board together.
Yeah, I know, but we're elected. You know, I mean, we have some really strict guidelines. The TDC board is all volunteer, and so you know, there's a little bit. They're not as encumbered as.
But we can certainly add a sentence that would make sure that's clear.
That would be. I think that would be.
That would clarify it. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else? I'm sorry, I can't sit up that high. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to anything here? Okay. If not, I will bring it back to the board, ladies and gentlemen.
Make a motion to approve with the recommendation for the training and the additional comments to be added by the attorney with regards to the media.
Okay, and you're talking about sunshine ethics training?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion among the board? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next request is approval to add the TDC administrative and beach operation buildings to the county access control. Right now, TDC administrative building is on an independent system from the county, and beach operations is not monitored at all. So we would be adding that function to that facility. So we have a price for the fire aspect of it is $1,216. The administration building is $17,160. Beach operations is $6,286 for a total of $24,662. This does not include video monitoring. We're going to do that as a separate bid, and we're going to bid that out, and then we'll come back when we have the bids, and we'll ask for that when we have that.
Okay. Will that monitoring be tied into the sheriff's department? I know that a lot of our buildings are monitored by the sheriff's department.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Very good. Ladies and gentlemen.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and second. Any discussion among the board? Anyone in the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Okay, and then just a quick update. We have one. The main numbers are in. We had a 2.74% increase in our TDT, and that comes to a total of $2,071,355.25. And that is it for me.
Have any questions? Mark, you didn't have anything on the agenda?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, then I haven't. I'm missing a page here. Hang on just a minute. Here it is.
Yeah.
Here we go. I was missing a page. All right. Next, we have a public hearing. I need a motion to open the public hearing, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. To open the public hearing. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
This item is the $73,000. We're requesting to bring this forward in reserves for the Muscogee Nation of Florida. And with my apologies, the board had held a public hearing for this at the last meeting. After the meeting, we realized that we had advertised this for the normal Tuesday meeting date, which had been changed. Y'all had the meeting on Monday. So this is just a repeat of that, asking to bring forward the $73,000 to leverage against a $30,000 grant with Engineers Without Borders and a $600,000 grant with the Administration of Native Americans. And these would be BP fund settlement dollars that we're asking you to bring forward.
Any discussion?
Motion to
on the board?
approve.
Okay.
Second.
Well, I have to have a public, anyone in the public like to speak to this issue? Seeing none? Motion?
To approve.
And a second? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Commissioners. I have 4 items on the agenda. The first is a request to approve the retention of Connolly, Bowman, and Dykes, specifically that firm in Hayward Dykes as a board attorney for the Walton County Board of Adjustment, and authorize the chair to sign the agreement. This action was authorized back in some time ago, and we finally got the request back in. And each of these boards, both the Board of Adjustment and the Code Board, which is the next item, reviewed the applications and ranked the applicants. So we would ask you to approve Connolly, Bowman, and Dykes for the Board of Adjustment.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion? Anyone in the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
And the second item is for the Code Board, and they recommended, and we would ask you to approve Renee Ewell as the Board Attorney for the Code Enforcement Board.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Anyone in the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Commissioners, the next item is a request to approve and authorize the chair to execute the developer consent and estoppel certificate allowing the sale of property in the Mossy Head Industrial Park, which we're referring to as the FedEx parcel, by Pensacola FG LLC to David L. Hunter. Just by way of explanation, the way FedEx operates is they actually leased this property from Mr. Hunter. Pensacola FG LLC was the actual builder, and they owned it until it was built. They had the lease until it was built, and now they're assigning it to David L. Hunter. I talked to the attorney for Mr. Hunter today, just out of curiosity why it wasn't being held in an LLC or a corporation, and his answer was it had to do with a 1031 and a tax exchange, and did not want to put it in an LLC despite his attorney's advice. So just so you know, that's what that is, and would ask for approval.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any discussion? Anyone in the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you. And the last item, Commissioners, is a request to approve and authorize the chair to sign the agreement for the real property purchase from the Head and Harold's located in Seagrove Beach along Eastern Lake. As you know, Commissioners, you authorized an offer to be, a counter offer to be made to their last offer of $850,000, and that's what this contract calls for.
$850.
Yes, ma'am.
And they've settled on, they're happy,
Say it again?
and they're accepting this, right?
Yes, they are. They've
Okay.
already signed this contract, yes,
All
ma'am.
right. So,
Motion to approve.
Second.
motion and second. Any discussion? Anyone in the audience? All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Ms. Meadows?
I don't believe I have anything. Nope, I don't have anything.
All righty. Mr. Impel?
Just happy birthday, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Who knew I'd live this long? Miss Silva?
Happy birthday again, and for those of you that know Lady B. Lackey, her husband, I believe, Wayne Carlisle, died last night, so just keep that family in your prayers, please.
Mr. Chapman?
Happy birthday.
Thank
you. We all better say it, huh?
Thank you. Next, we have citizens' request. Do we have Carrie Nell Moore here? Miss Carrie Nell?
Better behave.
Uh-oh.
She got her stick.
I am Carrie Nell Moye, M-O-Y-E, and Commissioners, good afternoon. I need your help. And I really need your help in that I thought when I had this digitalized that I would be able to use my pointer and would be able to show you where everything was. And I can just about do that. And I can come up with this check, y'all want to
No, ma'am, no.
You're welcome to walk around here if you'd like.
I did have the
Just don't get it
foresight
with
to
the
have
stick.
this printed out for each one of you, so you'll take them and pass them down, please. But you need to see what I'm pointing to. You need to say this one instead of that one. Okay.
You're welcome to walk around if you can get it.
Come up here, Ms. Moore. So
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna move away from the stick though.
Was she a teacher?
Okay. This is the situation. In the last year and a half, I have moved from the from 38 area over to the Hewitt Point area. And I live in a lovely, lovely neighborhood. I happen to live right here on Blue Bayou. So what you see in red here is a dirt road. Now, some time ago, you folks agreed to accept this, and this, which you will see there. Well, now you don't have to. I can show you. This is Paradise Point, although you still have it in the county records as Hewitt. Well, I guess y'all just haven't gotten up to it. And when it rains, we have a horrible, horrible problem right here with a huge, huge mud hole. I grew up on a dirt road until I was in the 10th grade. I know what it's like. My daddy had a tractor. He would pull anybody out, you know, who was in. But we've come beyond that now. If that was paved in '54, that was on a farm in Georgia. Now, right now, I have been told by an authority with you folks that the county has not accepted a new road in the last 8 years. Now, when Mr. Marsh was up here talking about the road access, he was saying that their road had been accepted 50 years ago. Well, somewhere between there and now, I hope you'll start accepting more roads, because I need you to accept this road, to maintain it, please. And the reason I'm so eager to get it done now is that it is my understanding that this autumn, you have promised these people that their road will be paved. This little road right here, which obviously provides great flow, because you have, this is a dead end, and this is the only way to get out. It's the only way for emergency vehicles. It's the only way for police or anybody to get out. When it rains, I mean, we don't just have a gully wash there. We have something that the cars sink down in. So the people who live here, who have all signed the papers, I've gone through all the paperwork with the road people, And they're the ones who told me to come here today and to tell you what my problem was. So all of these people have signed, and now every single person who owns property on Blue Bayou has signed to turn this over to you folks. The reason it was not turned over to you at the time the rest of these roads were, there was one individual who evidently did not get along with his neighbors, and he owned most of the property there. He no longer is an owner there. And so now everyone, 100% of the people have requested that we turn this road over to you to be maintained and to be paved, hopefully to be paved at the same time these others are, because you know and I know it's just logical that if this is paved and this little 160 yards right here is not paved at the same time, then it's not going to happen in my lifetime, which may not be too long, but anyway. So I'm asking you to please, I really implore you to please go ahead and accept that road, take care of that road. It really doesn't do that much for me, but it does for the whole neighborhood here, for the flow of the neighborhood, for the safety of the neighborhood, because these people literally cannot get out here. They have to go all the way around here, over here, and around here to get out. So I'm asking you, and I will say to you that everybody's wishing you a happy birthday tomorrow. Well, I'm having eye surgery tomorrow. That's what I'm doing for you. What makes you the better to see you with? So anyway, so I am having trouble seeing up here now. Everybody tells me it's going to be wonderful when I can see again. But anyway, I'm just asking you, if you would please, to accept this road, 160 yards, to accept it, and then to take care of it. Take care of me. I would appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
We will, Buddy, I see you lurking in the...
Is Buddy here? I've talked to him so many times, but I don't know him.
There he is.
Buddy, would you look into this?
He's the one who's helped me. He's looked into it. We filled out all the papers. He's given me everything. And he and this wonderful woman named Mary Cooper, whoever she is wonderful.
Yes, she is.
Mary's here. Oh, okay. Well, that's wonderful. Well, people in the audience, you should know, when you want things done on a professional level, these two have done so much. And this woman, I have sent her so many emails, and she always responds. So you folks should be very proud you have her.
We are.
We are.
Rest assured.
Thank you. Okay, so Buddy, if you will bring us back some information on that, we would appreciate it. Thank you. Next, we have other public comment. Is there anyone that would like to comment on something now that is not on the agenda? Mr. Hudson, I believe I see you back there.
My name is Bob Hudson, Hudson, and that's a hard act to follow, folks. I almost deferred coming back at another date, but I know this county is very concerned about tourism and how we present and put our best foot forward. I have been working or been guided through a process on a development behind my home that has brought something very near and dear to my heart, and that is signs that are required by the Land Development Code are required by the developer to place those signs up. How big, what color, how big the letters are, and all those things. It also states that once that issue is resolved, yes or no, that the sign comes down in 14 days. I will challenge you to ride the roads of South Walton, and I can show you signs that have been up 3 years. Beyond the date, I've seen some where the building is constructed and the sign's still up. As a citizen, I think we need to look at those. Some of them are on our scenic corridors, some of them are on Highway 98 and things of that nature. I don't know exactly how to propose this. I know numbers very well, but I've looked around in other communities how they do this, and they require a deposit from the developer once that sign is put up. And the developer then has, if it's 14 days after conclusion, to take the sign down. If he doesn't bring in evidence of the sign being removed, he loses his $500 deposit. The county creates new jobs in Walton County by hiring someone to go around and take those signs down. And as we look at the land development code, it would be my sincere hope that we would take a look at that, because, boy, they get to looking ratty real quickly. Thank you.
They do. Thank you, Mr. Hudson. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Bagby. And then the gentleman that just raised his hand after Mr. Bagby.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm here representing the Walton Area Chamber of Commerce and the Walton Area Chamber of Commerce Government Affairs Committee. And I just want to remind everybody that at 6 o'clock tonight we'll have our first candidate forum at South Walton High School, and it will be the school board candidates and the superintendent candidates. And then on Wednesday, tomorrow, we will have a luncheon. I think there's only 2 seats left, so if you haven't turned in your name, you may be too late, but we're going to meet the candidates for both our state representative seat and for our congressional seat. We'll all be at the Old Florida Fish House at 11:30 tomorrow, so if you're available, come by and meet them. And then on the 26th, we're going to have our candidate forum for the Board of County Commissioner candidates and the tax collector candidates at the South Walton High School. And then the next day we'll have the YP will actually have its candidate introduction for the representatives, both state representative and U.S. House representative. And I'll tell you the other dates at your next meeting, but we'd like to invite y'all to come out and meet the candidates, and invite the general public to come out and meet the candidates. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bagby. Yes, sir.
My name is Jim Hobson, Hopson, and I'm the Vice President of the Greater Driftwood Homeowners Association. I know that y'all are tired about hearing about Driftwood, and believe me, we're tired of telling you about Driftwood. But unfortunately, our community suffers from an inadequate and ineffective drainage system. But I'm not here to talk about that tonight. I've got something else I'd like to ask you about that's in the same general area. On the 8th of June, Mr. Stafford, the Director of Public Works for Walton County, sent a letter to selected members of the Driftwood community. In this letter, the good thing is the county acknowledges that we've got problems in Driftwood and they need to be fixed. However, the letter says that the effort is going to be to correct nuisance areas and restore the existing level of service, which has already been documented by the special magistrate and an engineer hired by Walton County that our drainage system as it exists is not effective. In the letter, it also states that the individual homeowners, if they want to have an improved level of service, should hire a contractor and have that service provided. That's not our responsibility as homeowners. It's on county property. The system was designed by the county, approved by the county, and it's the county's responsibility to fix it. Our attorney took a look at the letter from Mr. Stafford and also asked an independent engineering firm to look at the letter. I've got copies of his response and of the independent analysis of the system, and I'd like to pass those out after I finish the meeting, after I finish my comments. The basic facts of the letters are from our attorney that this does not provide an acceptable level of service for our community. And the document from the independent engineer indicates that the higher level of service recommended by the Public Works Department would in fact cause more problems than it would solve. There are a couple of questions that I would like to ask the commission, and one primarily since I'm running out of time. I'd like to know why this was not sent to the entire Driftwood community. Why was it only sent to selected members? And those owners that received it, just happened to be owners that were not members of our homeowners association. What was the intent of this letter? Why did it only go to those people? Why not to the entire community? If you wanted us to make it a better community, why not let us all know? I'd appreciate it if any of you could provide me any information on this. This is a great step forward in acknowledging we got problems. Hopefully we can move forward from this and avoid any future litigation in trying to resolve the problems in Driftwood. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Mr. Osborne. Is Betty still here? No.
You want to answer that question?
I think I know the answer, but I'll need to check.
Yeah, I'd like to further comment on this. I received one of the letters, and I was disappointed since I received the letter less than 2 months after you signed your final settlement agreement. In that settlement agreement, I'll remind you that the county is supposed to design, which it already mostly has with Tetra Tech, and seek funding for the implementation of this fix. Nowhere in the settlement does it say it's going to come after the people who live there and make them pay for it again, when we've already paid over $3 million in MSBU for a system that didn't comply. The thing I'm going to ask two things of you today. One, I want you to look into that drainage, and I'm telling you, it won't be me, but some other people are going to sue you if you don't fix it. If you don't do the right thing, they're going to sue you and they're going to win. They're going to use the same documents I used to make you pay me. So I just don't get it. You're going to have to admit it at some point and fix it. The second thing I want to ask you to do is I'd like to ask the board to send a letter to the DEO and ask them to issue a notice of violation on the Sandestin DRI. This will do two things. One, your job is only to monitor, and you've done that and declared it non-compliant. But nobody could be suing you, and I don't know why you insist on defending this, when if the state issued a notice of violation, the state would have to back that development order, and the development order would have to sue the state. Why you let them sue you? Because they didn't comply? You're just in charge of monitoring, and it would cost you nothing for a notice of violation. In fact, it would protect you in two ways. One, if the state suspended the DRI, you wouldn't be out of luck, and neither would the property owners, because the comp plan is still in place, and all of Sandestin is still zoned coastal center, and construction could continue if it complied with the comp plan, which is the intent of the county. Two, it would remove the drainage standards that you've adopted that you can't comply with, and then you really could legally pipe the water into the bay, even though I'm against that totally, and I know that it's going to destroy this bay long after you and I are dead. The runoff that's been allowed by this board and past boards without taking action will kill the bay eventually. It will be a problem even after y'all are gone, and you need to admit it. But at least if the development order was suspended, you could follow the comp plan and you could actually pipe the water because you have 0 retention lakes to put it in. So why are you fighting this lawsuit when it should be on the state? The state can go either comply and you get your development order back, or don't and it stays suspended and you follow the comp plan. It's easy. Think about it. And the last thing I want to say is you need to start doing the right thing on this drainage. Every single person who's ran for office has said infrastructure suffers. Change the drainage standards south of the bay. Leave the farmers alone. They have more land to deal with it. But south of the bay, 25 lots, 25 residents on a single unit cannot handle this. All of you guys, and I'm wrapping it up, all of you guys, every single one of you candidates that are running, and every single person who is a candidate says infrastructure is the biggest problem. Why aren't you stopping now and adopting a new drainage? Why you just keep saying the same old thing? Adopt a drainage standard south of 331 now.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Ms. Harris.
I guess I have a question as to who instructed Stafford to write that letter. He didn't just write that letter and pick who to send it to on his own. Now, Larry, before you answer the question, I understand you've already made the statement to someone that Sarah is the one who instructed him to write that letter. Now, if that's true, and you don't have to admit it tonight, but if it's true, I don't think any chairman has the right to put this county into another lawsuit by instructing people to do something. I think if you're going to instruct that to be done, it needs to be brought up before the BCC, it needs to be discussed of what y'all are doing, and it needs to be done, because it wasn't but just a few months ago that I went after Mark and said Sarah had written this big thing about what you had to do if you were on a board, and I sent it to every commissioner. Nobody knew anything about it, but it was on the agenda to be passed. And when I asked who wrote that, it was Sarah. She proposed it. Without talking about, you can't bring something up for a vote to these commissioners that hadn't been talked about, and the commissioners haven't asked to bring it up. But if you are a chairman of anything, and you start going around instructing people to do something without everybody knowing what you're doing and just sending it to select people, that is an embarrassment to the county. And then I have one other thing to say. I want everybody in this room to understand that this group everybody's talking about is not a PAC. It's a 501c4. And if you don't know what a 501c4 is, then you need to look it up. Second thing, if anybody else makes this statement, that I am involved in it, that I put money into it, or that I'm doing this, you better be sure you've got the facts, because I will sue you personally. I am not involved in this. I have nothing to do with it. I've done everything I can to research it, and I have a private detective researching it. But I will tell you this, it has $4 million in it. $4 million. When you get through all of the hoops you have to jump through to find out. Now, if you think I put $4 million in it, you're wrong. I understand it was said maybe it was Don Riley by Bill or Bill. Now, I'm going to tell you this, that it might be me.
Wait a minute. Don't accuse me of anything you did. It may have been Bill. And I'll tell you, I haven't said anything to anybody.
Okay.
So don't even start hanging that on me.
That's fine. But you listen to me. You listen good. When you said it, when Bill Enfield said it might be me, it might be Don Riley had a stroke 2 months ago. He's been in this county one time in the last 2 months. So while everybody is running around trying to guess who does this, I suggest you get your facts straight.
Your time is up.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I
sir.
was asked by an individual who was involved in this, and I told that individual, who obviously passed it along, there are a number of names that have been passed to me by dozens of people.
Exactly.
So, Ms. Harris, certainly,
Gossip is
I've never accused you. I've never accused Dr. Riley, but those names have been given to me by people. And I'm not going to accuse anybody. When somebody's got documented who it is, that's fine, but.
Okay. All right, I'm sorry. Enough. Yes, sir.
The stuff she does in these.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
My name is Robert Monk. Is that okay?
Maybe I'm sorry, I didn't hear your last name. Would you spell it?
Robert Monk, M-O-N-K.
Thank you, sir.
Is that okay? And I received this letter from June 8th from the Public Works, where you recognize that we have a drainage problem in Driftwood, which is a surprise to everyone, no doubt. And I have 3 homes out there. I'm not proud of it because I wish I didn't have them, but I have 3 homes out there. 2 of them are in the association, and 1 of them is not. And I received this letter at the home which is not in the association. The other 2 did not receive the letter. I wonder how in the world that happens. What makes that happen? Why isn't the letter sent to all the homes, all the homeowners, and not just one address?
Thank you, sir. Anyone
Okay.
else? Seeing none, we're going to take about a 10 to 15 minute break, and then we'll be back with legislative items. Mr. Dice?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. We have several items on the agenda. The first item is a request to approve the resignation of Tim Norris from the Design Review Board and approve the recommendation of Donna Johns as his replacement.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none-
I'd like to say I've known Donna for a number of years. I think she'll be an excellent replacement, and I will welcome her onto this position.
Very good.
She comes highly recommended from others as well.
Yeah, we do have a motion and a second, right? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, like sign, motion carries.
Madam Chairman, the second item is a request to approve the resignation of Arthur Miller from the Zoning Board of Adjustments and request the BCC provide recommendations for the appointment of an at-large member to fill the vacancy.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the resignation and appoint Ron Carter to the board.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Commissioners, before we do that, have we advertised that? I just want to make sure we put it out. The vacancy?
I do not know the answer to that question.
We got 2 applications today.
So we must have, okay,
So that's fine with us. That was one of the applicants, so it's on file.
What happened? I'm sorry. What did I?
Hey.
Hello.
Hey, you said I could go and.
Yes, but they made me.
What was the deal?
Blonde Carter on the Board of Adjustments.
Okay.
Okay.
We got a motion and a second to that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion of said item? Anyone in the audience? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Madam Chairman, we have several continuances and requests for tabling. You may go through these now, or you may wait and go through them
Let's do
individually?
them now, so anybody that's here that may want to leave. if
Okay.
they're not-
Under the number 3, under quasi judicial, the first item, it's a request to continue Surf Song Estates until the August 9th, 2016 BCC meeting.
Motion to approve.
I kind of need a second.
Second.
Okay, motion. I'm sorry, I've had one piece of cake too many. We have a motion and second. Any discussion?
Is this the first continuance?
Let's do it at the end, okay.
Is this the first continuance?
I believe so, yes, ma'am. And also, has the date changed for that BCC meeting? Is that one of the ones we changed, the August meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
It's not August 9th anymore, is it?
The meeting will be down here on,
It'll be defeated on the 9th.
so it'll be defeated.
Okay.
But that's the evening meeting.
Evening meeting,
But it's
okay.
an evening meeting, yeah.
All right.
So,
Okay.
all right. So it will be moved to August the 9th. We have a motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
The second item on the quasi judicial is a request to continue Culver's Restaurant, again, August 9th, 5 p.m., 4 p.m. up at Defuniak Springs.
All right. Is this the first time it's been continued?
Yes, ma'am, I believe so.
All right.
Motion to approve.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Number 7 is a request to table Peach Creek Phase 4 plat. Request to table.
Is this the first time on this one?
Yes, ma'am, tabling.
Okay.
Second.
Does this mean it's going to have to go back through the planning commission?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, we have a motion, and who made the second? I'm sorry, Bill made the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And the last one is number 10, a request to continue until August 23rd, 2016, Siboney plat.
Motion to continue.
Second.
And that will be at 9 o'clock. No, that would be at 9 o'clock
Down here.
down here, and to be heard at 9 o'clock. It's a black, okay, all right. We have motion second, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
And Madam Chairman, the first item on our agenda is a request to adopt the Portland Community Large-Scale Amendment. This is the adoption hearing. We had the transmittal hearing some time ago, and I believe all things are go for this adoption, and staff recommends approval.
Motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion second. Is there any discussion? Anyone in the audience like to address this item? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Number 2 in the legislative is the first reading of Topsail West PUD overlay ordinance. I'm going to ask Tim Brown to brief the board on this application.
Good evening. This is a request to amend Section 2.0600 of the Walton County Land Development Code to add the Topsail West Conceptual PUD Overlay District. What this would allow St. Joe to do is to move the land uses between the categories. Most of Topsail West is Town Center 2, and there's a part of it where 38 comes into 98 on the west side is VMU, so they could move those land uses around within the entire PUD. Right now, all they can do is Town Center 2 uses in that land use and VMU in that use, no intermingling, but the overlay district, overlay ordinance allows the intermingling of uses between the two land use categories.
Would that I have a question. Would that affect, I noticed that you've got some single-family residences to the north. Which part is VMU and which part is whatever else the other part is? And how would that impact, switch around, impact those residential units?
Well, there's already a master plan for the Topsail West PUD, so if they wanted to change anything, they'd have to come back through this board to amend the master plan. But the box there on your right, that's the VMU section.
Okay.
The remainder of that from the box west is all Town Center 2.
Town Center 2, okay. So Town Center 2 is probably more...
It allows neighborhood commercial uses, where VMU allows general commercial uses.
Okay, okay.
Because, like, for instance, Zaxby's was interested in coming in to the northeast, northeast corner of the intersection of West Hewitt and 98.
Right.
But that's not allowed in Town Center 2. But with this overlay ordinance, they would have been able to allow Zaxby's at that location because you can intermingle the uses.
Okay.
Otherwise, they would have had to amend the PUD. They could have came in and amended the PUD and perhaps allowed Zaxby's, but under the current PUD, it wasn't allowed at that location.
Okay. Now, wasn't Zaxby's a drive-through? Wasn't that one of the issues?
Yes,
wasn't
that was
one
of the issues, yeah. Because a drive-through is a general commercial use.
Allowed within VMU?
Yes, any land use that allows, which would be VMU, coastal center, mixed use, and general commercial, would be allowed in any of those categories.
Okay,
but not in Town Center 2.
Not in Town Center 2. Okay. I don't like doing blanket things where you just don't really know what you're going to get. It's kind of, you just don't know what you're going to get by switching all these land uses around. Well,
you would have to see the amended PUD because right now the master plan is set, like they're showing, for instance, at that intersection we just discussed, a convenience store gas station, which I'm assuming was what was going to be Murphy's. Why they put it across the street, I don't know. But since Murphy's is across the street, it's doubtful that a convenience store gas station is going to go in at that location. So they're going to have to come in when they do decide what's going to go there and amend the PUD. And when they do that, it's going to have to come before this board. But all the parcels currently have a use assigned to them through the master plan. Whether that holds up over time, we'll have to wait and see.
So I guess I'm a little bit confused. The master plan's not in here, and there's not any kind of explanation as to, well, there's a short explanation, not much of an explanation as to, when you're switching land uses around and trading land uses and allowing land uses to kind of float in a project, you just have no idea what you're going to get, like you said. And gas stations do go on opposite sides of the street from each other, so you could very well have a gas station on the other side.
It's possible, certainly.
Because it's, there's not very many gas stations. So that's the issue I have with it is that, it's just kind of a blanket approval to kind of do something that we don't know if we want to approve or not.
Well, we have two others. Has Kaya approved it?
Commissioner.
We've got Walton Apartments, they have an overlay, and Kaya, I don't know if that's been approved.
Right, but we knew what they exactly, we knew what Kaya was doing because they came in and laid it all out. I haven't seen the Topsail West mixed-use plan in probably, 10 years. I have no idea what it looks like.
Yes, ma'am, it's been a few years. Matt Carpenter of the Planning Department. Presently in that approved PUD master plan on the east side, the northern parcels adjacent to single family to the north are already built. We've got an assisted living facility on the east side of West Hewitt at the northern extent of the project, and then the Terramar Apartments is immediately to the east of that on the northern extent. So in that section, those are already built. Across West Hewitt, behind Walmart, is a proposed senior housing apartment complex.
Yes.
In the present master plan. The VMU presently is located in the northeast corner of the intersection of West 38 and US Highway 98.
I appreciate you going through all this, but I need a map and I need more information. I can't, make a decision based on, this kind of thing. So I'm just not ready to make a decision on it. I don't have enough information.
This is the first reading of the ordinance.
If I could, though, this doesn't allow them to move anything in the master plan without coming back before this board to show you what they're going to move.
Right. But
seek
without
additional
this,
approval.
they can't move it. And so maybe we don't want it moved. I mean, you see what I mean? I mean, maybe we don't want to grant the idea of being able to move things around. I don't know, because I don't know what's there and what's proposed. So I just don't have enough information.
Matt, if they wanted to change, they would have to bring it back to the board?
Yes, sir.
And I guess that would lead to a question. If they want to change something that's in the master plan to something else and the board has to approve it, would that might be an appropriate time to say, in order for us to do that, we need to make additional changes to what has been approved? As opposed, as the commissioner's saying, we don't know what they're thinking about moving, but if they need this change to make a move they anticipate in the future, but yet they've got to have permission to make a change to move those things within or exchange out of their master plan to bring something else to make the board aware of what those are, and if they're comfortable with that, these type changes that need to be made to accompany that to accomplish it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's kind of like the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
I mean, we're doing something that I have no idea what kind of impact it's going to have.
The applicant is here if you'd like to ask the applicant any questions.
Mr. Johnson, wouldn't you need to get this done so that they could do what
That's
you're
my
proposing?
point. That's my point.
Yeah.
But if you do them simultaneously, then you understand what the implications of making this change would be as you make a change to the master
You
plan as
understand
well.
what you're doing. This is kind of like saying, well, let's change this, and then that will allow them to come in.
There's a reason they're requesting the change, whether it's to facilitate something down the road that they may be able to come back and say, well, you changed it to allow that. And I think what Commissioner Menzel is saying is, let us know what this change would allow different than where they are today.
Yeah, that's I just don't have enough information to make a educated decision on it.
Good evening. I'm Bridget Precise with the St. Joe Company.
Could you spell your last name, please?
Yes, ma'am. Precise.
Thank you.
The Topsail West PUD was approved originally back in 2009, I think, at 2 public hearings. And in that process, there was a master plan that was adopted. One of the recommendations in the staff report as part of that approval was that we come back and adopt a PUD overlay ordinance. And this was the St. Joe Company, you may be aware, has been through several internal reorganizations. And this is one of those things that unfortunately did not get addressed in a timely manner in conjunction with the original approvals. So we are coming back now to clean that up as part of our conditions for the original PUD West approval. At this particular point in time, we do not have any definitive deals or discussions in the works to rearrange anything. It was just an effort on our behalf to come back in and be sure that we were compliant with the approvals that we did have in place. Certainly happy to review the PUD plan and approved site plan and master plan with anybody that may have an interest in doing that, and can certainly make time to do that at your convenience or your leisure. And if there's any other specific questions, my understanding is that this is the first reading, that maybe we could have some of those discussions between the first reading and the second reading or final.
So explain to me what the adoption of the PUD overlay district, I've never heard this before, allows you to mix land or float land uses throughout that.
Yes, ma'am, it's a process that we haven't used very much. But it's appropriate in a circumstance where there are multiple land uses within a development, and it allows them to rearrange the allowable uses outside of the defined land use districts within their project. Only within their project. They can't exceed the entitlements that are acreage-based by land use.
Okay.
In other words, they only have a small part of VMU in this project approved now. They can't make the entire project VMU.
Okay.
They can only move what they were entitled to in that one VMU section to some other location in the project, and that master plan would have to come back to this board to approve that. But they can't come back to request moving those uses without the PUD overlay ordinance that would authorize that.
So let me make sure I'm understanding the process. So if, say, Joe decided to move VMU to the left-hand side of this map, that doesn't have to be approved, but the use, the development order associated with that use would have to be approved.
Well, the actual land use district on our future land use map does not move. This merely authorizes the uses that are allowed within the VMU to be placed somewhere else on the site. Not at any greater extent than they would be allowed within the VMU that's already there.
Yeah. Yeah. And the problem is with the PUD overlay and that is supposed to set in place what you're doing. And this seems to me to be kind of a hybrid of that says.
Who gets does anybody get notice if the change is made? I'm just curious about the process. I'm not sure I understand. If I'm going to use VMU in another part of the PUD, how does that happen?
Then we come back and apply for a master plan change. The appropriate notices go out. It's a major development order application. The only difference is they get to select a use that's allowed in the VMU section of the development and place it somewhere else on their master plan outside of the VMU land use district, but still within the bounds of the entire project and still within the master plan that this board would approve an amendment for.
Am I correct in understanding that in 2009, when the PUD was approved, they were told to do this?
We recommended doing that. It's not an absolute requirement. If you don't want to move your uses outside of the future land use map designations within your project, you don't have to go through this process. But on a large development, the market moves. They may have additional opportunities to sell parcels or develop parcels for uses that the prospective purchaser of those uses would want to be located in a different part of the project. And this gives them some additional flexibility to come back and ask this board to move stuff around within their development.
Well, this would be the first reading. There'd be a
Yes, sir.
second reading required.
We proposed the second reading would be the first meeting of next month, so we'd have essentially 30 days in between the two hearings.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the first reading, and in the interim, get an opportunity to meet with the commissioners and further explain the overlay, so that if by chance you get to the second reading, there are the glitches, at that point in time, we can say stop. But I'd like to at least, let's keep the ball rolling, and in that interim period of time, let's get all the commissioners briefed on that specific aspect of it, please.
Yes, sir.
That's my motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? Anyone in the audience, by the way, would like to comment on this, other than the applicant? All right, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Madam Chairman, next item on our agenda is a request to approve a final order for 7 Palms and Inlet Beach. It's 5 single-family lots in the infill land use district. I'll ask Tim Brown to come up and brief the board on this application.
QJ, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I'm sorry, I need to be sworn in.
Anyone anticipates testifying before the board or speaking to the board on any item on the quasi-judicial docket, would you please stand and raise your right hand? Thank you. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And if you would, tell us when you come to the podium that you have been sworn, and say and spell your last name. Commissioners, do you have any ex parte contacts you need to turn in.
No, but a quick question. I'm not sure I know all of the people from planning, and would you mind getting them introduced so that some of the commissioners up here that don't know all of you others?
You've turned
say
them
hi?
Ladies and gentlemen, would y'all stand and, some of you are new and
I'll call them out. Rachel Jenkins. Raise your hand, Rachel.
Rachel,
Bob Baranti.
we know Bob.
Kristen Shell. Rita Bignati. And Amy's sitting there right there.
Thank you.
We welcome you. Thank you for joining us.
Amy, what's your last? I forget your last name. Floyd. That's right. I'm sorry, Amy Floyd.
Okay.
And this is Tim Brown.
So any ex parte contacts you have not turned in? Okay, hearing that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Tim Brown for the record. This is a major development order application submitted by Core Engineering and Consulting requesting approval for the development of 5 single-family lots on 1.26 acres with the future land use of neighborhood infill and an Inlet Beach neighborhood plan designation of residential. It's located at 160 Pompano Street. They have a proportionate fair share contribution of $17,730. They're buying out 1,335 square feet of sidewalk, which is equivalent of $8,010. You'll see some conditions concerning the wildlife lighting ordinance, required permits. There's a total of 9 staff conditions. Other than that, unless other evidence is presented to the contrary, this project will be consistent with the Walton County Land Development Code and Comprehensive Plan. I'll entertain any questions the board may have.
Anyone have any questions of Tim?
Yeah, I had a couple questions. There were some notes in here about the height of the buildings. Is there any restriction or anything they have to?
No, there isn't. There's no RP around it.
Okay.
There's nothing in the overlay district.
Okay.
Just a 50-foot height. I think we got some emails, perhaps. Some of these projects start running together. I don't know if this project about the height. There's nothing in the code that limits their height.
Okay. That was my main question. Yeah. Okay.
How's stormwater being managed here?
I believe 100 year. Yeah, it's a closed
Where's it at?
basin.
It's a closed basin.
Closed basin. So they're doing the 100-year storm.
And are you putting it under the ground or?
It's actually exfiltration.
It's under the road.
Under the ground. Yeah.
It's under the road.
Under the road. Okay.
Any other questions?
And that's going to be a private right of way. Okay.
Do you have any other questions of the developer? Ladies and gentlemen. Anyone in the audience like to speak to this? Yes, ma'am. Come forward, state your name to the record and if you've been sworn.
Betty Letcher, Letcher. It's a great project and I have no objection, but I'm always usually ask for no more than 2, but maybe no more than 3 heights because most of those around there is a few that are 2 and 3, but a lot of them are just 1 height, and that just kind of blends in. So that's my only thing.
And you were sworn, correct, Ms. Letcher?
Beg your pardon?
You were sworn, correct?
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Yeah. Anyone else?
Just another question. Did y'all 4 foot wide? There's an encroachment into the western landscape buffer. Is that what is that, Tim?
It's just stormwater.
Just for the swale.
Swale. It's a swale.
Oh, okay. Okay, so they're going to have, okay.
And they're allowed that amount of encroachment, 4 feet.
4 feet? Okay. Okay, I got you. Okay, so they're going to, okay.
It's for the road? Is it for the road?
No, not for the road, for the swale. Right.
No, I mean the swale's for the road.
Yeah. It's for the stormwater system. How's that?
Yeah, for the road, for the storms. Okay. I don't have any other questions. Miss Birthday Girl, would you like a motion?
Yes, ma'am, I would love a motion.
Okay. Motion to approve with staff conditions.
Second.
Okay, we have motion second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Amen.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, the next item is a request to approve a final order for the Good News United Methodist Church expansion. I'll ask again Tim Brown to come up and brief the board.
Tim Brown for the record. This is a major development order application submitted by O'Connell and Associates requesting the approval, excuse me, to add 2,936 square feet to an existing preschool on 6.85 acres with a future land use of VMU. It's located at 4747 US Highway 98. As part of this application, they applied and were granted 3 deviations by the Design Review Board. One was for a color deviation. They wanted to match the existing color of the building. The original building came in before the scenic corridor designation was put in the code. Also, the code requires the 25-foot scenic corridor buffer and a 5-foot sidewalk along Highway 98. Well, there's no physical way of putting either one of those in. There's just not enough room with the right-of-way, and DOT will not allow the sidewalk within the right-of-way. So they got a deviation to section 13.0303, which requires the site to be brought up to code when you're doing an improvement. So, and then the third one was for the roof pitch. The new building, they wanted a little flatter roof, so the DRB granted them the pitch 2.5. So those are the overall project was approved by the Design Review Board, including the 3 deviations. No proportionate fair share, no other staff conditions. They're just adding on to the preschool, so it did not generate any additional trips, so no requirement for proportionate fair share. So unless other evidence is presented to the contrary, this project will be consistent with the Walton County Land Development Code and Comprehensive Plan, and I'll entertain any questions the board may have.
In the interest of absolutely transparency, that's where my daughter goes to church. So.
Who?
My daughter. Church. She goes there.
And this is a preschool?
Preschool, yes.
Okay. Do they have any kind of drop-off zone, or I noticed most of it looks like parking. Do they have any kind of, because I know these preschools and schools, when they drop off and pick up, you know, there's different traffic scenarios. So do you have any idea about?
Yeah, you kind of go in and then you go around and come back out.
That explains it, yeah. Okay.
I know what. I knew that would tell you.
That explains it, okay.
It's in the back, kind of behind the church, or it used to be.
Yeah, I'd have to get the applicant to answer that.
That'd be good.
I do not know.
He can tell us what the best way
Mine was adequate, but if you wanted to throw it out. Could you come answer that question for me?
Yeah, I can't, these plans, I can't really figure out.
Hi, my name is John Nash with O'Connell Associates, NASH.
The John Nash, the famous famous mathematician
my
who
mom
won
is a
Nobel
mathematician,
Prize?
so she thinks she's subconsciously naming me that.
That's a great name. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So this project, they are actually not expanding the preschool. They are moving it to a separate building. So in terms of how they drop off kids and where that happens, it is in the rear, as you stated, but it's not changing. The actual size of the preschool, to my understanding, is not changing. It's just being moved out of the existing building into an adjacent building that they're going to construct, but they do have a drop-off zone.
Yeah, this little insert here shows the new building where it's going to be. Am I looking at that correctly?
Well, I'm not sure what you're looking at. Yes, I can tell you, it is in this area right here.
Yeah, that's
the new
it.
building's here.
Yeah.
In terms of the plans, all other sheets zoom in on the new building. So, but yes, that's correct.
Okay. And then, are you going to have to provide any more drainage?
There is some additional drainage that outputs to the rear detention facility that is existing, but all of the new building drains to the existing detention pond in the rear on the south side of the project.
Okay, so you're not going to be adding any more area of
detention? That's correct. The existing facility was adequately sized. That's right.
Okay.
See, anyone else have any questions of the applicant? Anyone in the audience like to speak to this issue?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and second. No further discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Madam Chairman, the next item is a request to approve a final Mylar plat for Magnolia Cottages. It's 11 single-family lots consisting of 8.49 acres in the T&D neighborhood district. Staff has reviewed this and recommends approval.
Wayne, how long is that road that goes back in there, and then there's no other outlet? Is that correct? It's
I believe so. Kristen, you want to, any questions?
Is there any other outlet back there, or?
I don't believe so.
No. And how many lots are in there?
11 single-family lots.
11. Okay. Okay, so it's only 11.
Well, it's phased, so there's an
There's
additional
more?
phase later.
Okay. So eventually you're gonna, and there's no way to connect any road up with anything else, is there? No.
No. In the first phase, they left a stub.
Because what happens out there, now we're working on their drainage problems, but what happens out there is, if the entrance gets blocked, there's no way for anybody to get out.
That stuff doesn't connect anything. It looks like that's right, Commissioner.
Okay, yeah, so basically, there, so how many lots are loaded on that particular road total?
Well,
can you tell?
It looks like there's another 21 in the future, or not included.
Okay.
In this, so.
Okay.
32.
Okay. Plus what's already there. Yeah. Don't we have some restriction, Wayne, on the number of lots that can be loaded onto a dead-end road?
Commissioner, I'm not familiar with any restrictions on that, and I don't think we have any. It would make sense to have some, but I'm not aware of any. That's something we could talk to the matrix group about as they go through our land development code.
I just get concerned about people being able to get in and out. So how does lot 3 access their home?
There's that canopy lane.
Is it in that runs along the common area? Is that it, or is it?
It's an access and utility easement.
Okay. So, is it to the south of Lot 3, or is it to the north of Lot 3?
To the north.
Okay, so that little stripe thing is like an alleyway?
Yes, ma'am.
The hatch. The stripe is a wetland buffer to the south.
Okay, and the hatch mark is an alleyway that would pick up those lots at front on the common area? Okay. Okay.
Wake me up somewhere.
Okay.
And it's going to be a private drive, 40 feet. I just hope they have enough room for parking and parked cars and all that kind of thing. Cause,
we have verified there is a homeowners association formed.
they are.
The dedications to the homeowners association, I just want to make sure we verify.
Yeah.
Okay.
One has been formed, or.
Well, I will check and make sure before we record the plat.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
I sort of inherited this one from Brian, so I'm sorry for.
Oh, okay. That's quite all right. Okay.
And the parking will be evaluated at the time of building permit stage. As we all know, the parking is based on number of bedrooms, and that's something we'll look at as they come forward for each building permit.
I probably have the development order
Okay.
in that file.
Okay.
Or we would have
Do
looked at
they
that.
have a beach access? Do y'all know? Do y'all know the closest beach access?
No, you have to come.
Do you know, does anybody know?
Yes, sir.
Bill Smith? Okay. Okay.
Anyone else have any questions of the applicant?
No.
Motion and a second.
With staff conditions.
With staff conditions.
Second.
All those in favor?
Second.
Motion carries.
Madam Chairman, the next item on the agenda is a request to approve the final Mylar plat for Carson Oaks Second Edition. Again, this is a replat for lots 1 and 2 of the Carson Oaks First Edition. It's on 0.307 acres in a neighborhood infill future land use. Bob Barante is here from our staff. If there's any questions. Well, replat of lots 1 and 2.
Does anyone have any questions?
And this is the one that they had already paid the recreational plat fee for the entire parcel, so we're not requiring a second.
Yes, sir. All the associated fees were done with the development order and the second plat. This action is being taken because a purchaser wants a different model home, so they had to change there's no creation of lots and there's no taking away. It still follows the development order.
Just want to make sure.
Okay.
Any questions of the applicant? Would we like to have a motion?
Motion to approve with staff conditions.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Madam Commissioner, the last two items are dealing with the Gulf Place final order. As you recall, this came before the board several months ago, and some changes were proposed. The applicant has done that. I'm going to ask Matt Carpenter to come up and brief the board on each of these two last applications.
Thank you, Commissioners. Matt Carpenter for the Planning Department. Our first item is an amendment to the Gulf Place PUD. And this amendment was at the suggestion of this board when this project was previously heard, that included a 40-unit condo and a 50-unit hotel. The board suggested that they convert the hotel to a residential use, and that's what this amendment to the PUD does. It converts a 50-unit hotel to a 30-unit condominium, and as we'll see in the subsequent project, it's going in the exact same footprint that the hotel building was in. We've had one, well, I won't get into the project yet, but that's this simple project. We're converting a 50-unit hotel that they're entitled to a 30-unit condominium, so that they can move forward with the project that comes behind us.
Does that affect your parking requirements?
In this particular case, as we'll see in the next project, they added one parking space. It reduced the handicap parking space by one handicap space, and so they were able to add an additional regular parking space. So that is the only change to the site plan that you saw previously on this project.
But they still have the right amount of handicap that they need, right?
Yes, because we're moving to a residential, the conversion from a hotel to residential allowed the reduction of that.
Mac, what is the difference between a multifamily residential condominium and a residential condominium? It says you've got 30 multifamily residential condominiums along with 40 residential.
They're essentially the same.
You know, put a bunch of families in one unit.
That's what I was thinking.
They are both multifamily buildings, which means they will be housed in one building and it will have multiple units.
Well, it just seems strange that it was phrased as you're going to add 30 along with 40 residential, so that's fine.
And so the 30 condominiums, there'll be a condominium document, condominium plan.
Yes, ma'am.
Documents and all that, okay.
Any other questions of staff? Would you like to ask the applicant any questions, ladies and gentlemen? Would anyone like to speak to this issue?
Motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners. Now we'll move to item number 12 on our agenda, and this is the actual project that's authorized by the amendment to the PUD. This is the same project you saw before when it was proposed as a 30-unit condominium and a 50-unit hotel. We just converted the 50-unit hotel to a 30-unit condominium, 40-unit condominium plus 50-unit hotel. 50-unit hotel is now converted to a 30-unit condominium, so this project has a total of 70 condominium units and 2,150 square feet of retail that will be on the first floor of the first condominium building to the south. They've added one parking space by reducing the handicap parking space requirement. There is also an offer to provide, I believe, 8 additional parking spaces, public parking spaces at a location to be determined by the Gulf Place HOA throughout the project to improve parking within the existing development. They're also proposing to add some additional parallel parking spaces, if this board would so choose to approve that, along 30A adjacent to the north condominium building.
Yeah, definitely. I think, because either they'll do it or we'll do it, so we'll let them do it.
They're offering to do that if it would meet your approval.
So did they have a meeting with the homeowners or something?
I'll let them speak to that.
Okay.
Mr. Terry? Mr. Eubanks?
Good evening, Commissioners. Jamie Wilbanks, EUBANKS with Jenkins Engineering. I have been sworn. I believe, are you in reference to the additional parking spaces? Is that your question?
Well, no, I was just wondering where all the opposition, went, because this was hugely.
It was, you're correct.
Hugely, and I figured you guys went out and had a big meeting and.
The developer's representative, Mr. Robert Drake, he has worked with the association hand in hand for, almost the better part of 2 years now. Of course, there was still, up until 4 to 6 months ago, as you know, plenty of.
Okay.
I think the elimination of the hotel, to be quite frank, satisfied 99% of the concerns.
Okay. Yeah, because we didn't get we didn't get hardly any emails or anything on this one, so I just wondered if, okay, that's fine.
All right, is there any other questions of the applicant? Anyone in the audience like to address this situation? Anyone?
Last call.
Motion to approve.
With staff conditions?
With staff conditions.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank y'all for working with the neighborhood.